Those bells rumbled me awake. Clang, clang, clang. Some guy out there was yelling about a wife giveaway. Right then, I knew for a fact I'd kicked the bucket in my past life. Mowed down by a speeding ride while dropping off food. Cut to now. I'm stuck inside this random body. Turns out, he actually shared my name. Sun Jian. And his memories slowly started hitting me. This alternative version of me? Total lightweight. A broke student who tanked his exams over and over. His folks starved to death during the famine. Then his fiancée ditched him for his own cousin. The whole town was basically waiting for him to drop dead, just so they could swoop in and snatch his tiny shack. He hadn't touched food in days. Honestly, in my prior life, I wasn't doing much better. I finished up college, rocked a yellow jacket, delivering takeout 24/7, and never even managed to land a girlfriend. And then, some luxury car clobbers me at a crosswalk. Now here I am, trapped in this ruined, messed up world. Get a move on. If you don't show up, you miss out on a bride and get drafted into the military. I hauled my frail, exhausted self through the door. This new era was completely torn apart by warring empires, battling the Qian, the Zhao, the Xia, and the Song. On top of that, starvation was rampant. People were driven to cannibalizing their own kids. Down at the town square, soldiers stood watch over a crowd of women, a mix of older folks and very young girls. The lead soldier struck his gong and announced, "Our empire is running out of men due to the conflict, meaning every bachelor must claim a wife. From these female captives, we were ordered to breed future soldiers for the state." The guys around me started howling like a pack of wolves, gesturing and barking out requests. I just stood frozen. After spending over 2 decades flying solo, this twist of fate felt surreal. Then the officer spoke up again. "For every bride, you're required to hand over 50 pounds of grain monthly." All the celebration instantly died down. That 50 pounds was pretty much beyond what one guy could harvest. All of a sudden, nobody wanted to get hitched anymore. As the men began backing away, the guards unsheathed their blades. "Nobody leaves. Either pick a wife right now, or head straight to the front lines." I stood there paralyzed. This whole setup was just forced human trafficking. I'd only just arrived in this alternate world, anyway. I definitely wasn't trying to kick the bucket this early. My strategy was straightforward. Keep a low profile, survive, and slowly build up my strength, bit by bit. Meanwhile, the local guys were selecting sturdy women with broad builds, the kind who could handle heavy farm work. I kept eyeing the more attractive options, totally paralyzed by choice. Just then, a voice echoed inside my mind. Ding! Ideal host identified. Favorability activated. System pairing with Joe Warner. Favorability increased by 1 for Gu Zijian. Favorability increased by 2 for Chu Qingqing. Favorability increased by 1. A cheat system, the exact thing every reincarnated traveler prays for. I nearly blurted it out in pure excitement. A guard shot me a menacing look, so I clamped my mouth shut and focused on the display screen. Visible only to my eyes, the interface displayed 3 specific names. Joe Warner, the third princess of the Zhou. Gu Zijian, a female commander from the rebel faction. And Chu Qingqing, a ruined heiress from a wealthy clan. Incredibly, all 3 were mixed in with this batch of captive women. Bizarre. What's an actual princess doing in a place like this? Well, no time to overthink things. The system explained that if their affection for me increased, I'd score perks. But if their affection dropped, they might abandon me or straight up plot my murder. Flashing a grin at the officer, I said, "Hey man, I'll take her, and that one over there as well." The entire village fell dead silent. Every single I was locked onto me. The rest of these guys were miserable about taking on even one wife. I requested 3, but this trio of ladies seemed pretty delicate, not looking like field laborers whatsoever. Ding, Zhou Wanan. Favorability down by 1. Red light warning. A shiver ran down my spine as the princess shot me a piercing glare. I could practically read her mind right then. She was pegging me as a total creep, and promising to make me pay for it later. Man, women change their minds in a heartbeat. I better watch my step. Just then, my cousin's boy, Hal, walked over, his face covered in deeply etched battle scars. He gave my shoulder a rough slap and burst out laughing. 3 wives? Your scrawny frame can't handle that. Plus 150 pounds of rations every month? It'll kill you. Don't go bringing disgrace to our clan. The rest of the villagers chimed in with laughs. They jeered at me, joking that I'd meet my end in a woman's bed, saying I was as skinny as a toothpick. I was well aware of the long-standing grudge between this body and son. How? I simply stared back at him coolly, then faced the sentries. Officers, you mentioned the more, the merrier. Is he trying to block me? The guards barked at Sun. How? warning him that anyone violating the regulations would face execution. Sun Hao offered a hasty bow and retreated, though his eyes made it clear he wished I were dead. Time was up, and the chief guard spoke up once more. Take your spouses home. In exactly 1 month. I'll be back for the crops. No provisions. And you're drafted into the military. Sun Hao and the rest smirked at me with icy expressions. They figured I was an idiot trading his own life for women, believing that a month from now would be my funeral. I couldn't care less. I gestured toward my 3 new brides. Ladies, let's head on back with your husband. Zhou Wanan, Gu Zilian, and Su Qingchong exchanged glances, their expressions completely unreadable. Then, one after the other, they trailed behind me. The trek back was pretty rough. Plenty of locals gawked at us, pointing and gossiping. Frankly, I didn't care. I guided my 3 new brides to my tiny, rundown place. Wives, the house is kind of dump. We don't even have decent chairs. Please don't hold it against me. I felt pretty embarrassed. Back in my past life, this joint wouldn't even be fit for a stray dog. A mouse would literally cry walking in here. Chu Qingcheng gazed at me with gentle eyes. It doesn't matter to me. If you hadn't picked me, nobody would have. I'd have been sold off into servitude or thrown into a brothel. You saved my life. I'll be a devoted wife to you. Suddenly, the system chimed in my head. Chu Qingcheng's affection +5. I nearly laughed. One sweet line, and her favor level soared. She really was brought up well. Zhou Waner and Gu Zijin remained silent. Yet I knew they shared the exact same sentiment. Without me, their fates would be far grimmer by now. Right then, a faint rumbling sound echoed. It was Zhou Waner's stomach. The princess blushed deeply and averted her eyes. She hadn't eaten a bite in over 24 hours. Gu Zijin was starving too, but having trained as a warrior, she could cope with hunger much better. I smacked my own forehead. Look at me, running my mouth and forgetting to feed you guys. Grab a seat. I'll go whip something up. I headed out to the kitchen. Behind me, Zhu Qingjian told the other 2 that we were family from here on out, and that we ought to bond with one another. They began introducing themselves quietly. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, I stared blankly at my empty rice pot. I had absolutely nothing. I'd promised them a meal, but there wasn't any food around. How humiliating. Then the system clicked in my mind. I checked the screen. Chu Qingqing's favor was at 10 already. I could trigger a reward, so I asked the system for one. I want food, a voice replied. I had 50 packs of instant noodles, 100 pounds of rice, and a huge jug of soybean oil. The supplies just materialized right in front of me. I was stoked. This system is seriously awesome. Now, I had to keep grinding for favor points to get more gear, so I could cover the grain tax in a month. I figured I'd whip up some instant noodles. Quick and tasty, I scrubbed the pot and got water boiling. Soon, a massive pot of noodles was ready. Smelling incredible, I called the 3 women over. Their eyes popped. They probably assumed. I just served them some wild greens and watery porridge. They were stunned. Chu Qingqing spoke up first. Husband, what is this? Giovanna listen et intent. As a princess, she'd sampled every delicacy in the Zhou kingdom, but she'd never laid eyes on this. She started eyeing me with newfound curiosity. Maybe I wasn't just a broke village guy after all. Gu Zijin was also peeking at me from the sidelines. It's called instant noodles. Dig in, I said, handing each a hearty bowl. Zhou took one bite and couldn't contain herself. Wow, so delicious. I had no idea food like this existed. Then she turned red, embarrassed by her lack of decorum. The others were just as floored. They'd never tasted anything like it. Eat up, there's plenty more. Chu Qingqing flashed me a smile. Husband, you are too generous. Please eat too, I said, grabbing my own bowl. I had a whole new life. 3 beautiful wives and snacks from my old world. I felt pretty damn lucky. Take your time. No one's going to steal it if you want seconds. I'll whip up some more, I said. The princess blushed bright red. Once again, she tried to eat with proper etiquette, but those noodles were just way too delicious. The other 2 were completely the same way. By the time dinner wrapped up, I'd racked up extra favor points simply by being a nice guy. Zhou Waner's favor rating increased by 2. At least now, I didn't have to stress about her trying to take me out while I was asleep. Then night fell, and it was bedtime, which left me with a real dilemma. 3 gorgeous wives. 1 single bed. Now what? I couldn't just blurt out what I actually wanted. Their affection levels would plummet instantly. If they dropped below 0, my life would literally be on the line. Noticing my expression, Zhou Waner pointed toward the mattress. I'm taking the bed tonight. Gu Zijing chimed in. I'll take the floor. Chu Qingchong offered a timid look. Husband, But before she could finish, a heavy knock rattled the door. Bang, bang, bang. I'll answer it. You 3 sort out who sleeps where. I swung the door open. Somehow, there he stood, flaunting that hideous, scarred face of his. He was clutching a small pouch. Hey, cousin. What do you want, cousin? I figured you'd still be starving. Look, I brought you some grain. He unzipped the sack. Inside was stale, yellowed grain already turning fuzzy with mold. I saw right through his game. A weasel doesn't visit a chicken, just to wish it a happy new year. My tone turned icy. Listen, somehow. There's nobody else around, so drop the act. Just tell me what you're really after. The phony grin instantly vanished from his face. Fine, let's cut to the chase. I want to use this sack of rice. Just to get a night with that lady of yours. You know, the Busta one. What do you mean, the bustiest? That's Joanna, the third princess of the Joe. And the guy actually thought he could barter half a sack of spoiled rice for a night with her? Total wishful thinking. I could barely keep a straight face. Somehow he caught my smirk and totally misread it, huh? You're smiling, so it's a deal. I knew you were starving. This food is going to save you. Don't even thank me. Just bring me to your girl. I'll play nice. Then he reached for my hand. Greed written all over his face. In his mind, I was still that same helpless old Sun Jian. He figured after one night, the other two would be a breeze. He'd get all three of my wives for next to nothing, leaving me to take the fall for the grain tax. Sweet deal for him, death for me. Too bad for him. I'm not that old Sun Jian anymore. Back off. You're making me sick. I shove him away. He stood there completely stunned for a whole minute, before his expression darkened with rage. Sun Jian, you played me. So what? Get lost. He grabbed a wooden club, resting nearby, and took a swing at my head. I couldn't even react in time, but suddenly a figure darted right past me. Geezy Jean. She intercepted the stick effortlessly, and glared at Sun Hao with an icy stare. She'd been eavesdropping from behind the door, worrying about me until she heard the proposed swap. It repulsed her, but it was also laughable. Even the instant noodles I whipped up beat this. Maggoty rice by a mile. In the past, she would have put Sun Hao on the ground right then, but she didn't want to bring any trouble down on me now. Sun Hao yanked hard to pull the club back. Even putting his absolute all into it, he couldn't. As his face flushed crimson, Sun Jian, are you even a man, hiding behind a low-class woman? Have some dignity. Tell her to let go and face me herself. Strolling over, I lightly tapped his cheek. Look, you got it all wrong. A wife backing up her husband is totally fair and right. Men and women stand on equal ground. Who claims a woman is inherently lesser? The moment I declared that genders are equal, Gu Zijing shuddered slightly. She gazed at me with a peculiar look, muttering to herself that I was quite an odd fellow. System alert. Gu Zijing's favorability +2. I signaled my wife to release him, and he hit the dirt hard. Scrambling to his feet, he bolted a short distance, then spun around to bark, Sun Jian, my big brother works at the county magistrate's office. You're dead meat. Yeah, I already knew that. His brother, Sun, held a minor leadership role at the county building. The pair of them used to pick on the old Sun Jian back in the day, but that didn't rattle me at all. If his brother showed up, I'd just square away the past scores and the new ones. All at once, Gu Zijing looked anxious. I've brought chaos upon you. I dismissed it with a wave. When trouble knocks, we just deal with it. She stared back at me in utter astonishment. I spoke with the eloquence of a scholar, and crafted such magical noodles. Was I truly just some destitute peasant? We headed back inside, where a worried Chu Ching Chong asked what had occurred. Once I explained, Joanna grew absolutely livid. Her expression darkened as she stomped her foot, utterly shameless. How repulsive. This palace will. Abruptly catching herself, she cut off, this palace. Gu Zijing stared at her for a long moment. So, her sister was using a fake identity as well. Though obviously, Gu Zijing was also concealing her own. Chu Qingqing was too naive to pick up on it. When bedtime rolled around, Joanna gestured toward the mattress. The three of us take the bed. You're on the floor. Try any funny business, and Zijing will destroy you. You witnessed her strength. Chu Qingqing let out a soft giggle. Gu Zijing shot me a warning glance. I just shrugged and sat on my spot on the ground. Three gorgeous wives right next to me. Yet I could only look. The battle isn't won yet. This worker's got to keep grinding. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep. Later on, I felt arms wrapping around me and snapped awake. It was Chu Qingqing, her face completely flushed. Husband, today is our wedding day. A wife is supposed to give herself to her spouse. I know you're a decent man, and I truly want to fulfill my role. But right now, this is the closest I can bring myself to be. Please don't be upset with me. My heart melted, and I pulled her into a tight embrace. Silly girl, how could I ever be mad? You all crossed paths with me during a crisis. It makes total sense to feel hesitant. When the timing is right, I'll throw you all a spectacular wedding. That will be our actual wedding night. She trembled slightly, looking up at me with teary eyes. Husband, you're so sweet. Finding you must be a blessing from my past lifetimes. The system chimed in once more. Chu ching chings. Favorability plus 10. New reward available. I was thrilled. Wife, tell me about your past. She gave a slow nod. I was born into a wealthy southern silk trading family. My relatives refused to collude with crooked authorities and exploit the local silkworm farmers. So, a corrupt bureaucrat framed us for those crimes. More than 100 of my relatives perished behind bars. Some mysterious savior managed to rescue only me. As she began to weep, I pulled her close. Honey, please don't cry. I swear to you, I'll make them pay for what they did. That absolute dog of an official is going down. All right, dear. I trust you. Across the room, Gu Zijing shifted under her blankets. She murmured under her breath, barely audible. Will you avenge me as well? Dawn finally began to break. Waking up, I glanced over at Su Qingqing, who was resting peacefully. I slipped out of bed to claim my system rewards. Suddenly, there was a violent pounding at the door. We got trouble, huge trouble. Sun Jian, get out here. I pulled the door open. A middle-aged guy wearing coarse clothes stood on the porch. His shirt was completely splattered with blood. Your old yellow ox, it's been slaughtered. It wasn't my fault, man. Don't pin this on me. My yellow ox. What ox? I rubbed my eyes, still totally dazed. Then, the host's memories flooded back. The original Sun Jian owned a single yellow ox. It was literally the only valuable asset the family had. He had loaned it out to someone for plowing. And that exact man was standing right before me. His name was Old Zhang. Old Zhang was known as a decent, honest villager. Since his uncle worked down at the county office, his household managed to own a few modest plots. They weren't wealthy, but they weren't starving either. My ox is dead. Damn it, who did it? I seized him by the collar. That beast was the sole inheritance for my new parents. And now, someone had gone and butchered it. Those past memories hit me incredibly hard. Sun Jian, I swear I had nothing to do with this. Sun Hao completely lost it and intentionally rammed into the ox, only to claim that the beast attacked him. He then whipped out a blade and plunged it straight into its heart. Get over there quickly, the animal is taking its last breaths. You can still haul it back and salvage the meat. If you stall, you'll get left with nothing. Lao Zhuang had good intentions. That's the sole reason he tipped me off. Somehow, that scumbag is at it again. I recognized instantly that the ox never charged at him. This was purely Sun Hao's payback for last night. The previous Sun Jian had been tormented by Sun Hao for years. The absolute lowest point was when Sun Hao embezzled half of the medication. Funds meant for my mother. The entire household nearly starved to death that month. The old version of me was far too helpless to retaliate. But I'm different, balancing the new scores and old grudges together. If he's looking for a death wish today, then I'll happily oblige. Terrified, Lao Zhang grabbed my arm. Don't throw your life away. Sun Hao is backing Sun Hu. Sun Hu happened to be Sun Hao's older brother, who served as the captain of the county guards. A massive guy with a thick beard. He's notoriously brutal in a brawl. He once thrashed 4 heavy lifters from the neighboring village, entirely on his own. Even my uncle admits to being intimidated by Sun Hu. How could you possibly take him? I let out a cold smirk. Sun Hu, big deal. Just retrieve the ox and keep my name out of it. Lao Zhang bolted instantly, wanting absolutely no part of the drama. Glancing down at my frail arms, I smiled bitterly. The original Sun Jian was nothing but a fragile bookworm, undernourished and reduced to skin and bones. Even squaring off against Sun Hao would be a stretch. Taking on Sun Hu would be straight-up suicide. Yet, certain situations can't be calculated purely by logic. When dealing with thugs like Sun Hu and Sun Hao, staying passive only invites them to torment you further. Right then, the system crossed my mind. I got a system. Time to put it to the test. System. Open status panel. Use one standard gacha roll. Give me strength. The voice responded. I'd unlocked a complete set of Tongbei boxing skills. The martial arts memory flooded into my brain. My stat points for power shot up by 18. My updated panel read, Strength 58, Speed 40, Intelligence 80, and Charm 60. The system indicated that 50 represented an average healthy human, while 80 was the absolute peak. Looking down at my arms, my muscles were literally bulging right before my eyes. I felt incredibly powerful, totally surging with energy. Just wait for me, I'm on my way. I stepped out of the house. Little did I know, the moment I left, Joanna cracked open the door behind me. She'd been awake since Old Zhang came knocking. She overheard the whole thing, tracking me with her eyes as I walked away. The corners of her mouth smirked slightly. Not bad, the guy actually has some guts. I totally misjudged him earlier. Meanwhile, the system rang out in my empty room. Joanna's affection level +2. Had I stayed hidden and let Sun Hao get his way, she would have written me off as a pathetic coward, someone completely beneath her notice. But I passed her test. Can he really pull this off, though? Don't go getting yourself killed. After a brief hesitation, she trailed after me. As a royal princess, she had been trained in combat since early childhood. While she was no match for a top general, she could easily take down a common villager. She wasn't in love with me, but since I had fed her and saved her life, she couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Right after Zhou Wan slipped outside, yet another figure peeked out from the door. It was Gu Shijuan, watching Zhou Wan depart. Her beautiful eyes narrowed. That woman is definitely hiding something. I knew it. She had already sensed there was something unusual about Zhou Wan. Throughout dinner, she'd been keeping a low-key eye on her. Her gut was spot on. Joanna definitely had combat training. She was no ordinary captive, that's for sure. How fascinating. None of them are ever as simple as they seem. Let's see how this plays out, she muttered, softly closing the door. Then, she trailed behind them. The three of us were closing in on Sun Hao. The guy had absolutely no clue what was coming. I hurried down the village path, clutching a sickle with steady, powerful strides. Before this, even a brief walk would leave me totally wiped out and breathless. But now a sudden warmth filled my body, and an endless surge of energy rushed through me. The system was actually real. I hadn't gone very far before spotting a campfire. Huddled around, it were 7 or 8 men, all dressed in guard uniforms. They had completely butchered my old yellow ox, and were roasting the meat. Over the open flames, a young guard took a massive swig of wine, and tore into a chunk of beef with his teeth. This old ox was pretty scrawny, but the meat hits the spot with this wine. The rest of the crew were stuffing their faces just the same. In these brutal times, only the wealthy city folks got a feast on meat and wine. Like this. But thugs like these guards? They just took whatever they damn well pleased. Sun Hao stood up visibly buzzed, holding a hefty slab of meat. Eat up, boys. Blame it on that brainless beast. It actually bumped into your master's son. Like how I'm a guy some animal can just touch. His brother Sun Hu, who was far more cautious, chimed in. Hey, isn't this Sun Jin's ox? Messing with him should have some limits. His folks starved to death. That ox was his whole life. If we're eating it, let's make sure we don't end up with a corpse on our hands. Sun Hu, the captain of the county guards, was older and sharper. He'd seen a lot more than his hot-headed brother. Back in my old world, he was basically a chief of police. Pretty much everyone in this county was terrified of him. Sun Hao just chuckled. Come on, man. Seriously, you're giving that piece of trash way too much credit. Sun Jian is definitely no legendary hero. Out of some old folklore. With a scrawny frame like that, he ought to drop to his knees and call me his master. Yet, he was still dwelling on how I'd humiliated him. The night before, there was just a different vibe about me now. Even so, with his brother backing him up, what real options did I have? Right then, I roared, Sun Hao, you're gonna pay for my ox with your life. I charged straight at him, brandishing my sickle. Sun Hao caught sight of me and froze in shock for a second, before his expression completely darkened with pure rage. He figured I must have a massive death wish. Sun Hao slammed down his wine bowl. The unwritten rule had always been that regular folks don't mess with the authorities, especially not in a world torn apart by war. Even the other guards always cowed to Sun. Someone the old version of me wouldn't dare challenge. Stunned, he barked, I only came for an ox, boys. Just leave him with some breath in him. Don't kill the guy. The guard stood up and closed in around me. Sun Hao snatched up a wooden stool, wearing a sadistic smirk. He was plotting that once they thrashed me within an inch of my life, he'd head straight over to my place and have some fun with my gorgeous wives. I scanned the whole lot of them. These guys weren't lawmen. They were just bandits wearing uniforms, hiding a safe distance away. Joanna watched the scene, her heart pounding with anxiety. Honestly, my survival didn't really mean much to her. But if I bit the dust, she'd be left in serious jeopardy. After all, she was a displaced princess in hostile territory. If she chose to interfere and rescue me, her cover would likely be blown, and a fate far worse than death would await her. She bit her lower lip, cursing silently. Desperate for backup, she pinned her hopes on Gu Zijing, who was also laying low close by. Gu Zijing's brow furrowed deeply. She was weighing her options too, but she'd already resolved that if things went south, she would find a way to save my skin. Thinking I was paralyzed with fear, he couldn't wait any longer. He swung the heavy wooden stool right at my head. It was solid timber. A strike like that could shatter stone, let alone a skull. Die, you piece of trash. Bang! A deafening crash echoed, and everyone froze in their tracks. Yet somehow, that stool never even touched me. Instead, my boot slammed hard straight into his chest. He coughed up blood and stumbled backward 3 or 4 paces, collapsing onto the dirt and howling in agony. The surrounding guards stood completely stunned. They hadn't even registered how I'd moved. Sun-Hu leaped straight out of his chair, his eyes wide with sheer disbelief. He just couldn't process what he was seeing. Overnight, I had completely transformed into a different person. No longer a weak coward. Even my slender frame seemed tougher now. What the hell happened to this brat? Sun-Sin shrieked from the floor. Brother, take him out. Kill him, with his ribs shattered. His voice sounded incredibly strained and raspy. First, I had talked back to him, then I humiliated him, and now I'd broken him. He wanted me dead. Sun-Hu's expression darkened fiercely. Fine, since you dare to harm my brother today, I'm going to snap both your legs. Sun-Hu roared, his eyes burning with pure malice. Regardless of whatever weird trick I'd pulled, I had brutalized his brother right in front of him. That was a direct slap to his face. If I walked away unscathed today, how could he ever maintain his rule? Rising to his feet, he grabbed a heavy wooden club. As he lunged at me, I just scoffed coldly. His intimidation meant absolutely nothing to me. Go ahead, threaten me. Let's see who bites the dust first. Your brother slaughtered a working farm ox. Under Chiem law, that is a capital offense. You're a guard captain, yet instead of stopping him, you let him and your boys butcher the beast and feast on it. You knew the law, and you chose to break it. That makes your crime even worse. You can go ahead and smash my legs today, but tomorrow, every single one of you hits the chopping block. The faces of the other guards drained of color. I wasn't just bluffing either. The law strictly penalized killing an ox with execution. We were in the middle of a war with famine everywhere. Grain was our absolute top priority. Farm oxen were simply too precious to be slaughtered. But Sun, who wasn't a total idiot, sneered. Don't sweat it, boys. So what if he's read a few books? Big deal. The guy's got nothing but fleas to his name. He can't even afford scrap paper to file a formal complaint. Just rip out his tongue. As long as we keep him alive, he can't tell a soul. He had completely seen through my situation. I truly had no money to take them to court. Still, I stood my ground and kept my cool. Sorry to burst your bubble, but before coming here, I told a bunch of villagers to come check out the show. They ought to be arriving any minute. They're going to witness exactly how you killed that ox. Gorged on its meat and gouged out my eyes. Everyone froze in their tracks again. Even Sun stopped dead in his boots, and his crew started panicking. Boss, what if he actually called the locals over? Let's get out of here. If we get busted, not even the county magistrate can bail us out. Sun just glared daggers at me. He was backed into a corner with no good options. As the chief guard of Hongdong County, if the villagers caught them red-handed, not a single soul could get away. He chose to bolt. You guys carry my brother and move out. Damn you, Sun Jian. Just you wait. I watched them scatter in complete chaos. I just shook my head, nearly bursting out laughing. Even if you stuck around, you wouldn't scare me. Hold up, fine. A bunch of losers actually thinking they can take me on. I glanced over at the pot of beef, which was already fully cooked. A wave of sadness hit me. My poor ox. But man, it smells incredible. So I sat down and dug right in. The meat tasted amazing. Right as I was eating, Zhou Wanner and Guzi Jin stepped out from their hiding spot. They just stared at me with the strangest expressions. Hey girls, what are you doing out here? I glanced up, stuffed to the brim with meat, and saw two gorgeous women gazing back at me in total shock. A warmth filled my chest. They had actually come to look out for me. My place was completely empty, with the wind howling right through the walls, and we could barely find food. Yet, I had 3 beautiful wives who truly loved and cared for me. Heaven has really blessed me. Zhou Wanner and Guzi Jin exchanged a glance. Get up from there. This is no place to be hanging around. Let's move fast. You said the locals were on their way. If they catch us like this, we'll never clear our names. Husband, let's get out of here first. I chuckled, my mouth full of food and my hands covered in grease. Locals? What locals? Oh, right. I was just bluffing Sun-Hu. There aren't any villagers coming at all. Think about it. I didn't even know where they were hiding out. So how could I have tipped off the locals? Besides, in this war-torn world crawling with bandits, who would venture out at night to a spot like this? The two of them just gawked, their jaws dropping. Hey ladies, don't just stand there gaping. Sit down and have some beef. I beckoned them over. I reminded them to leave some for Chu Ching Ching. Back home during these tough times, simply not starving was a total blessing. Having meat was a pipe dream, but I passed them thick slices. Dig in quick before the meat gets cold. Once they caught the scent, they couldn't hold back anymore. They dug right in at that moment. Their taste buds and bellies experienced a joy they had never felt before. Joanna couldn't even recall her last time eating meat, ever since the military captured her and forced her to be a war wife. This was the very first time she felt secure and satisfied, and it was entirely thanks to this peculiar husband. She'd only known for a few days. Gu Zijing felt the exact same way. She had assumed that being claimed by a guy would mean torture and humiliation. She'd been fully prepared to take her own life or flee again. Yet none of that happened. Instead, there was this. She gazed at me with a gentler look now. There was something distinct about this man, a certain quality that gave her a sense of safety, the wits to plan things out, the guts to fight. Was he honestly just a regular villager? We all feasted well on the journey back. Eventually, Joanna couldn't contain her curiosity. Hey, who are you really? The entire trek back, both women had been staring at me, as if I were some bizarre creature. Every single time I glanced their way, they quickly averted their eyes. It was pretty strange. I shrugged. What else could I be? I'm your husband. Just as I was puzzling over why they kept tracking me, the system chimed inside my head. Ding. Joanna's affection has surpassed 20. Currently 22. You receive 1 standard lottery and 1 rare lottery draw. Ding. Gu Zijing's affection has surpassed 20. Currently 24. You receive 1 standard lottery and 1 rare lottery draw. I nearly burst out laughing. When did their approval shoot up so quickly? It was just in the single digits a moment ago. For lottery chances all at once, for real? Man, just spooking Sun Hu and handing out meat. Got me this much. A few more rounds like this, and I'll cross 100. Sure, this world is plagued by war and famine. But who cares when I've got my system? I wasn't sweating Sun Hu's payback at all. I'd totally destroy him. What's so funny? Joanna gave me a bewildered stare. We were nearly back. Yet her husband was just chuckling to himself. And he sounded pretty greedy, too. Oh, nothing. I just mapped out an awesome plan. You are my husband anyway. What's the plan? Let's head inside. I'll break it down for you. Once home, Chu Ching Chong rushed over to hug me. With teary eyes, she asked if I was all right. I filled her in on the whole ordeal. Her heart was racing as she listened. She felt proud of me, but was also terrified. Regular folks don't pick fights with authorities. That was an ancient truth. Officials had countless ways to end someone. Now that we'd made an enemy of Sun Hu, there was no telling what dirty trick he'd pull next. Joe Warner and Gu Zijing witnessed my guts today. They realized I wasn't as helpless as I seemed, so they weren't as anxious. Gu Zijing took Chu Ching Ching's hand. Don't sweat it, he's got plenty of moves. Johanner chimed in. What's the play if Sun Hu returns? What's your strategy? I grinned. Relax, I've got this covered. Ow, I definitely pissed them off. But they can't breathe a word about the ox. They can't exactly admit I trashed Sunday. Why would they? Shooting themselves in the foot like that. Somehow isn't that brainless. They won't show their faces for a few days. They're more spooked than we are. If they want to start trouble, they'll hold off until grain collection day. Grain day. Ju Zhen Jun. Face reality. Husband. You have the 3 of us. That's 150 pounds of grain a month. What are we supposed to do? Don't sweat it. 150 pounds is chump change. I'll hand over 6 months worth up front. And I guarantee, our family will have meat on the table for every single meal from now on. What? 6 months all at once? Meat at every meal? The 3 of them gaped at me. They figured I'd completely lost my mind. Sure, I'd whipped up those magic noodles. And yeah, we had a bit of grain put away. But there were still over 20 days to go. Even if we rationed every crumb, we wouldn't even have 50 pounds. We had no jobs and no land. Were we supposed to go begging during a famine year? Beggars got jack squat. 6 months up front meant 900 pounds. Where from? Joanna kept her dignified tone. But her voice had softened now. Quit holding out on us. Tell us what you're plotting. I pressed a finger to my lips. Chill. The mastermind has his methods. Don't ask questions. Time for bed. Same arrangement as before. I've got the floor. You girls take the bed. Night, wives. I stretched out on the floor. The 3 of them locked eyes. Utterly bewildered. That night, the 3 women lay in bed, unable to sleep a wink. Each was lost in her own thoughts. Yet they all agreed on one thing. The man snoring like a log on the floor was no ordinary peasant. He was something else entirely, someone operating in the shadows. Deep into the night, the system's voice woke me up once more. Ding. Chu Ching Ching's favorability has exceeded 30. Currently at 31. You've earned 1 epic lottery spin. Ding. Total favorability has passed 70. Your reward is 10 free attribute points, along with a mid-tier gift box. Opening my eyes, I was ready to chew out the system for disturbing my sleep. But then I saw Chu Ching Ching kneeling right beside me, tucking me in with a blanket. Her gentle gaze instantly melted my heart. Reaching out, I grabbed her waist and pulled her in. She let out a soft gasp of surprise. As she tumbled forward, her chest brushing against my lips. A sweet fragrance and soft skin filled my embrace. Blood rushing to my head. I reminded myself that the timing wasn't right. I restrained myself, but honestly, my 3 wives were stunning. Though slender, every single one of them was the type. Men back in my old world would revere as goddesses. Bathed in the moonlight, her cheeks flushed a pretty pink. Dear, you're awake? Nodding, I planted a tender kiss on her cheek. Go get some rest. I want to clear my head outside for a bit. It's pretty drafty out there tonight. Take the blanket so you don't catch a cold. Whenever we got intimate like this, her pulse would race, and she couldn't meet my gaze for long. All right, off to bed, wrapping the blanket around myself. I stepped out into the dilapidated courtyard. Looking up at the sky, I muttered, "Hey, Lord System, could you maybe mute notifications at night? You completely ruined a perfectly good dream." Naturally, the system ignored my complaint, simply flashing the text in front of me again. 10 free attribute points and a mid-tier gift box. It wasn't shocking that Chu Ching's favorability had spiked by 10 points overnight. Out of the 3 of them, she was the closest to me, and my charm stats weren't half bad either. Charming a couple of girls should be a breeze, but scoring 10 free attribute points was massive. The system chimed, mid-tier system unlocked. 10 free attribute points available. Allocate now. Dump every single one into strength. The rest can wait, 'cause in a war-torn world, the absolute first thing you need is the raw power to defend yourself. A faint light flashed, boosting my strength from 58 to 68. Just shy of the absolute peak for a normal human. I pulled up my updated status panel. Strength 68. Agility 50, Intellect 80. Charisma 60, current skills. Tong Bequan boxing and classical literature. Inventory items, mid-tier gift box. Gotcha spins, 2 common, 2 rare. And 1 epic. I felt way more powerful. Energy surged through my body. Open the gift box. A shimmering gold chest materialized right before me. With a flash of light, 5 items popped up. They practically blinded me. With pure hype. Received. Potent antibiotics X20. Next-gen energy fishing rods X10. Infrared semi-automatic compound bows X5. Along with 100 arrows. High-grade adrenaline shots X10. Super potatoes X100. Man, I nearly lost it. This mid-tier reward was absolutely insane. It basically fixed every single problem I had. The meds could literally save lives. The next-gen fishing rod could instantly electrocute fish. Right in the water, no nets or hooks required. Just wade right in and paralyze a whole school. The compound bow featured infrared targeting from 100 paces out. No prey could ever break away. But the ultimate prize was the super potato. The system description said it grew massive. Was packed with nutritional value. Completely ignored freezing or arid climates. Didn't require a specific season. Grew insanely fast and was fully ready in 30 days. I was legit ready to scream with joy. The system was actually legit, and it was awesome. Talk about a night full of crazy surprises. I figured I'd save the lotteries for another time. The next morning, I woke up to my 3 wives, bickering over how many noodles they should boil. Chu Ching was clutching the bag tightly. No way. If hubby can't score any more grain, this is all we've got. We have to save it for taxes. Let's just have a bite so we don't starve. Joanna waved it off, saying he'll get the grain. Eat up, it's no big deal. I put my faith in him. Just yesterday, she probably would have rationed every speck. But after last night, she wasn't sweating it at all. Gu Zijin was just standing between them, completely torn on whose side to take. Honestly, after being famished for so long, who would want to finally eat their fill? But Chu Chin made a fair point too. If I couldn't round up more grain, saving every bite was crucial. What's with the fighting first thing in the morning? I strolled over looking pretty wiped out. I grabbed the package from Chu Ching and handed it over to Gu Zijin. From now on, we do 3 meals a day, 2 packs each. Go whip it up and don't skimp on the seasoning. But husband, Chu Ching looked heartbroken. I patted her shoulder. Just trust me on this. Our lives are only going to get better from here. That eased her mind, and she nodded along. She still had her doubts, but she kept them to herself. After all, I was the one bringing home the food. The other 2 gazed at me with adoring eyes and sweet smiles before heading off to cook. Once we finished eating, I let them in on my strategy. We were going to hunt and fish. The 3 of them looked baffled. Over the years, landless villagers survived by doing exactly that. But literally everyone in Hongdong County hunted and fished. There was no wildlife left on the hills. The rivers ran low on fish. Hunters set out at dawn only to return empty-handed. And as a scholar, I didn't even own a bow, nor a fishing rod. There wasn't a single decent piece of metal in the house. What was I supposed to hunt with my grandma's shoe insole? I totally expected them to react like this. In this primitive era, folks relied on longbows and crude nets. So of course they didn't buy it. Hang on, let me show you guys the good stuff. Heading outside, I made a show of walking down to the cellar. Opening up my inventory bag, I pulled out a compound bow, a high-tech energy fishing rod, and a rubber suit. When the three of them saw this gear, they were absolutely floored. Husband, what on earth are these? Is this a bow? As a general's daughter, Guzijin could tell it was some sort of bow, but she'd never laid eyes on anything like it. The other two were staring wide-eyed in amazement, too. She picked up the compound bow. What exquisite craftsmanship. How can metal this pure even exist, husband? Just how much effort does it take to forge iron this fine? What did you just call me? I asked, giving her a knowing smirk. It suddenly clicked what she had just said. She hastily put the bow back down, her face flushing bright red as she stared at the floor. Her dainty hands fidgeted nervously, unsure where to rest. The temperature in the room seemed to rise, and the spark between us was almost palpable. The atmosphere grew warm and slightly tense. Xiao Wana pouted and averted her gaze, while Chu Qingqing's cheeks turned a rosy pink, staring at Guzi Jin's adorable expression. I couldn't help but grin. That's the very first time you've called me husband. She started to object, but cut herself off. She blushed so hard, she looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her up. She was totally speechless, and I felt bad for messing with her. So I changed the topic. Look, you weren't wrong. Forging this alloy would normally take forever. But I swear to you, this is a one-of-a-kind piece. Give it a shot, I said, passing her the bow, while gesturing toward the Polonia tree out back. Wait, me? Can I really? She grabbed it, looking shy but totally hyped. Duh, obviously. Look through here. Target that spot and line up the 3 sights. Leaning in close to coach her, I gotta admit, her figure was absolutely killer. Curvy in all the right places. Her face flushed deep red as her breathing turned heavy. Yet she remained locked in. You don't even need to pull the drawstring on this thing. Just load the bolt and pull the trigger. Taking a deep breath, she locked onto the target and fired. Zip! The arrow tore through the air like a bolt of lightning. It pierced straight through the trunk of the tree and buried itself deep inside the mud wall behind it. The fletching was still vibrating with sheer power. The trio stood there completely stunned. They figured it was just a slightly upgraded bow, not something that could blow through solid timber and wall. This was straight up a weapon out of myths. Did you actually make this? Zhou Wanner's gaze turned intense. She knew something was up. Who else? I flashed a smug smirk. Who are you, really? Where did you get all this bizarre stuff? Miracle food, legendary armaments. Before, she only had her suspicions, but now she was positive I was no ordinary country bumpkin. Perhaps an heir to a hidden clan of master smiths, or some wealthy noble from a foreign land. Marooned here, just like her. I'm your husband. That was all I intended to reveal for today. Anyway, hunting isn't our primary objective. This is. I pointed toward the high-tech fishing rod. Chu Qingqing picked it up. Hubby, this metal-tipped rod? What's it for? She almost hit the power switch. Way worse. Both ends of the baton were aimed straight at my crotch. If she'd actually clicked it, my 3 wives would never have kids. No way. I snatched it back instantly and set it down safely. The trio just stared blankly. I warned them this thing was deadlier than any bow. One wrong move, and it'll take a life. Hearing it packed more punch than a bow. They were dying to see it in action. I gave in and promised a demonstration. Back in the Qian era, women weren't supposed to go out unaccompanied. But in times of war, with everyone starving, those old rules went out the window. Men either farmed or hunted, while the women foraged for wild roots. As we left the house together, we crossed paths with other village women heading uphill. Hey look, it's the scholar from the east side. Where are you off to? Called out Majin Sher, the wife of a guy named Maidan. She was the ringleader of this crew. Her husband owned a few small plots of land, so she looked down on everyone else. She was notorious for her foul mouth, and barely anyone dared cross her. Fishing, I replied, trying to bypass her, but she blocked my path. What? You fishing? Ha ha ha. She slapped her thigh, roaring with laughter, and the other women chimed right in. You'll drown in that river before you catch a thing. Sister Jean, look how broke he is. If he doesn't fish, is he going to go home and eat dirt? 3 wives, and you drag them along too? Are they here to fish out your corpse? Hold on, Sister Jean. This kid seems a lot bigger now. The last time we met, he was skinny as a rail. I could practically feel Gu Zijing's urge to slap them. Even the mild-mannered Chu Qingqing couldn't take it anymore. Their words were incredibly harsh. Ma Jin clearly wasn't done yet. He literally risked his life to buy 3 wives. If he can't deliver the grain tax, he's a dead man. Why isn't he back home making babies? Why is he wandering out here? None of your damn business. I had already stood my ground against Sun Ho. Why on earth would I back down to a foul-mouthed woman? You're just a broke scholar with 3 wives. We'll see you get executed in 20 days when you fail to pay the grain. She threw a tantrum, stamping her feet in fury. I didn't bother wasting another second. I quickened my pace, walking ahead with my wives. Sister Jean, what's that object he's holding? Who cares? He's just a beggar waiting for the end. Husband, are we seriously going to catch fish with this? Are you certain? Shu Qingqing looked completely baffled. Zhou Wan'er and Gu Zijing looked just as lost. They had completely tuned out the village women's mockery, but they still couldn't wrap their heads around my plan. Yeah, just cut through this patch of woods. And about 2 miles east, there's a massive river. It's shallow, making it perfect for fishing. But since it's so close to the village, any fish that would have been caught by now, especially using this weird, long pole. No more questions, you'll see soon enough. It was autumn, so the wildlife was still quite active. Once winter hit, it would be a lot tougher. I recall from my newly acquired memories. That local fisherman completely avoided this river. It was packed with rocks, and the current was way too swift. Fishing hooks constantly got snagged on the stones, and nets couldn't be deployed properly. That's why nobody came out here. When we arrived, I handed a pole to each of my wives. I instructed them that once the fish surfaced, they needed to scoop them up. With a riverbank narrows, they were totally clueless but went along with it. Geared up in my rubber suit, I waded right into the stream. I was gripping 2 brand new energy fishing rods. The gear kept the chill out, so the water felt fine. It was just past my knees with plenty of rocks. But visibility was clear. Did we trust them way too much? Can that gadget actually reel anything in? Yahello was still pretty skeptical. Next thing you know, they thought I was a straight-up wizard. I plunged both of the rods into the current and gave them a quick, gentle flick. Instantly, a pair of fish popped up belly first. They started drifting away. Snap out of it. Grab the catch. The trio snapped back to reality and bolted forward with their wooden spears. The system chimed. Yahello, affection points +3. Guzzy Jean, affection points +3. Zhu Jing, affection points +3. Teaming up, we hauled them in at lightning speed. Pretty soon, they could barely manage the load. I headed back to tally it up. We tossed the little ones back, leaving over 50 plump fish. The 3 of them were thrilled, practically ready to worship me as a god. Husband, is this some kind of sorcery? No hooks, no spears, not even a net. They just pass out and float right to us. Yahello's eyes were completely wide with wonder. Hey, let me have a turn. I pulled the rod away. It's got too much kick. One wrong move, and you'll zap yourself instead of the fish. I'll show you how it's done some other time. Stingy. Fine. She gave a cute little pout. The 3 of them regarded me in a whole new light. Softly, yet packed with absolute awe and fascination. All right, let's head home. We headed back to the village around noon. Our heavy lines of plump fish, drawing looks from everyone. Blood was dripping from the catches, as folks crowded around us on our way. Hey kid, where'd you hook all of these? Look how fat they are. Man, I'm dying for a bite. Never knew our resident scholar had it in him. Maybe the river's just teeming with fish. Let's go check it out. 51 fish, each weighing 3 to 4 pounds. In town, this haul would fetch 50 or 60 pounds of grain. What a jackpot. I haven't tasted meat in over a year. A few of the men were practically drooling over the raw catch. The village women, who used to mock me, turned flushed and bitter. They couldn't believe a single outing brought in this much. Today, I finally gained some respect in this village. Even if the river was full of fish, landing a haul like this was no small feat. Pulling this off just a few times a month meant covering the grain tax would be a breeze, not to mention hearty meals every single day. No wonder I managed to have 3 wives. They probably thought I possessed secret tricks. Once we got back, the 3 of them wanted to steam some fish. I stopped them. Why, husband? We can't eat any fish today. Shu Qingqing stared at me with wide eyes. The other 2 were absolutely famished, having gone without food since yesterday. But with so many mouths to feed, they now felt too self-conscious to overeat. Nope, today's entire catch is going to town. We're going to barter them for grain. Just unrefined grain. Joanna raised an eyebrow. Her feelings were a mix of joy and complexity right then. Happy because I was planning for the future, putting it away for the grain levy. It was tough, since things would remain pretty bleak. Winter was closing in, meaning the river's catch would dwindle. We couldn't keep this up every single day. Yet, she also realized that as a deposed princess in hostile territory, crossing paths with me was a massive stroke of luck. Next to working a brothel or being an abused wife, bartered away like rations, this life was pure paradise. Gu Zijing gave a gentle smile. Don't sweat it. Our husband surely has his reasons. I reached out and playfully nudged her nose. You really are the sharpest, huh? Traditional. Old school women just weren't used to being teased this way. Her heart began to pound, and her cheeks flushed crimson. It felt like 100 deer were racing inside her. She quickly averted her gaze, refusing to look at me. I didn't want to keep flustering the poor girl anymore. So I laid out my strategy. It's not the actual robbery that should freak you out. It's having a thief constantly watching you. The world's too dangerous right now to keep this much fish at home. We're basically advertising that we're loaded with food. Starving people are going to get desperate ideas. That's why we got to clear all this stock out fast. But bartering it for grain still tips folks off. That we have provisions, Chu Ching Ching pointed out. I just grinned. Before the day ends, I'm giving that grain to the landless peasants. Every single bit of it, until it's completely gone. Joe Warner's eyes suddenly sparked. Oh, I catch your drift. You want to gather a following and build up an army. So when Sun Hu shows up, we'll have men ready to fight for us, right? Dead wrong. I shot her a deadpan expression. Classic royalty mindset. Her immediate instinct was to purchase people's loyalty with rations, but starving crowds work differently. Even with full bellies, the moment real danger hits, they aren't going to take on armed guards for you. People look out for themselves, no matter the era. Besides, even if you do get a following, this is totally the wrong way to go about it. My strategy is to have them cultivate our soil and clear the wilderness for us. Then we sow crops and keep them fed. They put in the work, and I've already got the seeds. I just need acreage in times like these. Offer a guy a hot meal, and he'll bust his hump. 3 square meals a day with coarse grain and meat. And folks will just keep on coming. Taming the wild lands, eating wild game. The 3 were baffled, but it honestly sounded like the arrangement between wealthy landowners and peasants. But all the fertile plots near the village are taken. Nothing's left but steep slopes and arid ground. It's nowhere near water. Even weeds can barely survive there. Those seeds are never going to sprout into crops. I just flashed another knowing grin. Have a little faith. A clever man has his secrets. Just follow my lead. I had those super potatoes. They could thrive on absolutely any terrain. So that didn't worry me in the slightest. My only real issue was manpower. And starving laborers were the easiest thing to come by. Fill their bellies, and they'll work themselves to the bone. Zijian, you've got real talent and a sharp eye. Grab that bow and go hunting up in the hills. On your way back, take a stroll through the village. Spread the word that anyone without land can come to our place for grub. Complimentary meals? You got it, husband. She gave a nod, her eyes beaming with pride. Sing Chong, go track down Lao Jiang. Tell him to bring along a couple of trustworthy buddies. Haul the entire catch of fish into town, and barter them for some coarse grain. Guarantee him 10 pounds for his trouble, and stick to the main road. Make sure everyone spots us heading to town loaded with fish. Why Lao Jiang? Why not use me and her instead? Zhuana questioned. Lao Jiang might be flat broke, but his uncle works right in the local office. Even if starving folks spot them, nobody will mug them. The highway is way safer. Plus, we want the world to see that we're swapping fish for grain. That way, no one suspects we have food at home. Oh, she let out a cute squeak, her eyes sparking up again. What about me? What's my job? I patted her head, but she gently nudged my hand away. I didn't sweat it. She was a princess, after all. Breaking the ice was going to take some time. Quietly, I thought to myself, just staying out of trouble is plenty. Who'd actually have the nerve to put a princess to work? You're staying back with me. We're going to plant some seeds, all right. Husband. Once everyone had their assignments, Gu Zijing and Chu Ching Chong headed out to work. I guided Zhao Weiner down to the cellar, where I'd stashed my stash of super potatoes. Staring at the rows of muddy, dirt-covered lumps, she looked totally baffled. What on earth are these? Mud balls. Potatoes. You've seriously never seen one? I was stunned. Sure, these super potatoes were massive, and a bit off color compared to normal ones, but they were still obviously potatoes. How could a princess of the Zhou have no clue what a potato was? Do royals just completely ignore farmland? What's a potato? She genuinely didn't know. I broke it down for her. Potatoes, or earth eggs as some say, are staples just like wheat or rice, packed with nutrients. Well, you might not get that fancy word, but basically they're super filling and yield tons per plant. They shoot up incredibly fast, too. What? She gasped in disbelief again. Lifting a giant potato with her delicate hands, she asked, but it's covered in filth. How do you even eat it? Tons of ways. You can steam it, bake it, or fry it. Even serve cold with dressing. It tastes absolutely amazing. Mind-blowing. After just a few days, she stopped doubting me completely. To her, I was just full of mystery and miracles. Little did I know, though, it wasn't like Joe Warner was being some stuck-up princess. Back in this era, potatoes hadn't even reached this corner of the globe yet. Even the veteran farmers had no clue what they were. See, potatoes didn't hit ancient China until the 16th century, in my own world's timeline. Anyway, our plan now is to pack them in wet mud and just wait for them to sprout. Once they sprout, we'll chop each one into 4 or 5 chunks, and then plant them exactly according to my layout. The two of us ended up coating 91 potatoes in mud. I saved 9 on the side for Joe Warner to steam up, so the crew could try a bite when they got back. Right as the sky started getting dark, Gu Zijian returned loaded down with a massive haul of game. 3 rabbits, 2 wild chickens, and a gray lynx. Most hunters wouldn't bag this much in a whole week. Just like before, a mob of villagers trailed her all the way home. Mostly beggars and folks with nowhere to go. Their clothes were just filthy rags covered in patches. They all watched with starving eyes, hoping I'd hand out some scraps. Gu Zijian caught a whiff of those steamed potatoes and bolted straight for the kitchen. Have one, Zijian. They're fresh out of the pot, so watch out. I wanted to give her a hug, but she still seemed way too shy, so I just passed her a steamed potato instead. This is it. It's a food called a potato. Super tasty. Joe Warner was already munching on hers, sharing everything she'd learned today. Gu Zijian took a bite, as that rich, starchy flavor filled her mouth. She nearly burst into tears of joy. Take it easy, we've got 3 each. There's plenty left. I watched them eat with a gentle gaze and handed them water. Outside, panhandlers and displaced peasants were crowding around our perimeter. Gu Zijing had delivered on her part, so now I just needed Chu Qingqing to get back. Man, we've got major trouble. Out of the way, a booming shout shattered the quiet. Lao Jiang came hobbling right through the crowd, drenched in dirt and looking absolutely terrified. Sun Jian, where on earth is Sun Jian? What's wrong? A jolt of panic surged through me. I rushed out and spotted a battered Lao Jiang. A terrible intuition hit me. We're screwed. He must have wiped out repeatedly rushing over here. His face was all scraped and black and blue. What went down? Where's Sister Chu? Zhou Wan'er and Gu Zijing hurried outside too, scanning the area, but there was no sign of Chu Qingqing. We managed to buy the grain in town, and we're just about to rent some donkey carts to head back. But along the road, we crossed paths with Sun Hu and his patrol. They claimed the fish we had were stolen. I yanked him by the collar. They said what? They swore they caught you stealing the fish. So they dragged her to the magistrate's office for interrogation. I tried to hold him off, but I couldn't do a thing. He stomped his feet in pure frustration. I came incredibly close to decking him in my fury. I hadn't even lived around here for very long. Yet Chu Qingqing had already become genuinely irreplaceable to me. My gentle, sweet, lawful wife was now locked up in a cell. Stolen fish? We literally reeled those in ourselves. Wait, isn't your uncle stationed at that office? How could he just stand by and let Sun Hu take her? My uncle works there, sure, but he doesn't hold any real sway. At the very least, Sun Hu still gave him enough respect to let me sprint over here and tip you off. Lao Jiang was right on the verge of tears. He had taken over my responsibility and totally dropped the ball. I get it now. This is Sun Hu playing dirty to get even. I clenched my fists tightly. I figured Sun Hu would at least wait for grain day, but he moved incredibly fast, striking in just days. Family has always been my biggest weak spot in this life, and now Sun Hu has finally crossed that line. He'll pay 100-fold for this. I'm heading to the office. Keep an eye on the house. I turned to walk out, but Zhao Wan'er blocked my path. You can't go. And why not? Are you worried about your husband? Fine, I'll tag along with him. I'll keep him safe, Gu Zijing said, stepping up. Husband, this whole thing is a setup with a bogus charge. That corrupt official dragged our wife away in broad daylight. He's clearly declared war on us. Let's march to the magistrate's office and demand her release. The county magistrate will surely grant us justice. Gu Zijing possessed the soul of a true hero, and Chu Qingqing was now a sister to her. Cool down first. Acting out of rage will only ruin things. Zhao Wan'er reasoned. Just think, if Sun Hu dared to snatch her so brazenly. He's laid a trap and is just waiting for husband to walk right in. If we just charge him blindly, we'll fall right into it. I gradually collected myself and took another look at Zhao Wan'er. She wore simple clothes, yet they couldn't conceal her stunning figure and beauty. Sure, she was a bit lazy and loved good food, but when things got real, she was always the level-headed one. If not for her, I might have blundered right into Sun Hu's snare. Hold on. Did she just call me husband? My ears aren't playing tricks on me, right? It was such an uphill battle to get these 3 to call me that. And now every single one of them has said it. They've truly accepted me in their hearts. Still, Chu Qingqing is locked up in jail. This is absolutely no time for romantic musings. I began to map out a plan as Gu Zijing paced around anxiously. Sao vene against the pets here shoulder. Don't stress. Our husband is no ordinary guy. We're sure he'll figure out a way to bring sister Chu back home. Gu Zijing sighed and nodded, racking my brains across both of my lifetimes. I knew one absolute truth about this era. Regular folks stood no chance going up against officials. Even during wartime, class divides ran deep. Low status. Citizens basically had no rights whatsoever. Bailing someone out of prison was next to impossible. Since Sun Wu dared to abduct Chu Qingqing so brazenly, he definitely had framed evidence cooked up. He wasn't sweating any legal complaints. I was broke, and I didn't have connections in high places. Hold on, I still had the system. I instructed Guzijin to send the locals back home. Deliver today's game to the village chief, and have it cooked up to share with everyone. The project to clear wild land for potatoes was still a go. Understood, husband. She left to handle it. Warner, take Lao Jiang over to the front parlor. Hold up, I just need some quiet time to think. I summoned the system. System. My wife is locked up. In your lucky draw. Is there anything that can rescue her? Some trick to outsmart the authorities? I had two choices. Track down a superior official to secure her release, or dump all my lottery points into brute strength, and stage a jailbreak under the cover of night. The second option was insane, even with a strength stat of 90, where I could rival elite martial artists. The county jail alone was packed with hundreds of guards. If I got pinned down, the city could deploy thousands of troops. A strength level of 90 meant taking out 100 guys, not 10 grand. Plus, for lottery pulls might not even get me to 90. That strategy was a dead end. Ding. The system does not possess such utility. Even a marketplace has restrictions on high-tech items. There are no incantations for mind control. That sort of sorcery is completely non-existent. Even back in your former world. My heart sank. Right then, I caught Joe Wainer and Lao Zhang chatting outside. Lady Joe, check this out. Tell your boy not to head to the office. Who's got the guts? The guy's loaded with fake proof and backed by big shots. What big shots? This started 2 weeks back. The county magistrate's wife fell seriously ill. He handed all the official duties over to his deputy and the chief clerk. And guess what? That clerk is Sun's adoptive father. They're totally covering for each other. If Sun Jin goes down there, it's pretty much a death sentence. What exactly happened to the magistrate's wife? Even if she's under the weather, can nobody visit her? Lao Zhang just scratched his head. All I know is that something bit her. The whole injury is oozing pus, totally red and swollen. A bunch of doctors claim she's a goner. I leaped up, bolted right out, and cornered Lao Zhang. Repeat that. Man, he looked freaked out. I told you, stay away from the office. No, not that. The part right after. I said they're working hand in glove. You're gonna get killed, damn it. The magistrate's wife, what's wrong with her? Some creature bit her. She's on her deathbed. The medics threw in the towel. They're just waiting for the end. Honestly, I shouldn't even know this. My uncle let it slip. Does she have a burning fever? Is she blacked out? Is her pulse fading? Yeah. How'd you figure that out? Only Joe Warner realized her husband had a game plan. She kept her mouth shut and bided her time. That's just a bacterial infection in the cut, which triggers the fever. Perfect. This is great. Chu Qingqing can actually be saved. I practically yelled out with pure relief. What kind of bacteria? What fever? Lao Zhang was totally baffled. Lao Zhang, do me one quick favor. Those 10 pounds of grain are still all yours. This is on me. I failed to keep Lady Chu safe. I may be broke, but I still have my pride. Not just one favor, but 10 of them. Still, I can't take this grain. Then come to town with me right now. Take me to your uncle and tell him to get us into the county. My lord, I think I can save his wife. If I mess up, you can have my head. What? He was completely shocked, and so was Johanna. Did her husband actually know medicine too? Stop staring. I wouldn't say it if I weren't totally sure. Let's move. I'm coming along too. Johanna called out, Husband, take me with you. It's pitch black out. There are bandits roaming the roads at night. We gotta watch each other's backs, Gu Zijing said, brandishing her sword. I was worried about the danger. But I was also anxious about leaving them behind alone. So I gave in. Fine. All of us then. Lao Zhuang didn't object. He borrowed a donkey cart from the village chief. We rode out toward the city. The night was dark, but we made it there safely. Lao Zhuang's uncle was Wang Yuren. He had a gig at the post office. Not exactly a high-status job. He just delivered mail and received visiting officials. Even so, he could get us an intro to the county magistrate. Without him, we'd just get beaten and driven away at the gates. But the moment Wang heard our plan, his face turned crimson with rage. Are you insane? I had some powerful antibiotics from the system's gift pack. The governor's wife was suffering from an infection. This was my shot. Save her, and the Lord would owe me big time. Then I could negotiate for Chu Qingqing's release. But first things first, I needed to get past this guy and into the governor's manor. Easier said than done. He can heal people? Don't think this old man doesn't know who he is. Wang Yuren scoffed. This kid is just Sun Jian. He cleared the imperial exam 7 years back. But he's just a lazy, good-for-nothing slacker. If he actually knows medicine, then pigs can fly, and now he demands an audience with the magistrate? Get the hell out of my courier station. Old Uncle Jean stepped up to stick up for me. But I cut right in. Listen here, Mr. Wong. You're talking absolute nonsense. Flying pigs aside. You aren't me, so how can you judge my capabilities? As an educated man, you should know the old proverb. Those who truly know do not blabber, and those who blabber do not truly know. You've never once seen me treat a patient, so how can you claim I can't? He was left speechless. I pressed him further. Let me ask you this. The magistrate's wife is on her deathbed, and every physician has thrown in the towel, right? Yes, exactly. A real healer doesn't obsess over ancient methods. Only what actually gets results, right? Yes, yes. I'm willing to wager my own life, right now, that I can cure her. Yet you keep getting in my way. Sure, we can walk away. But if it turns out I actually could have saved her, then who really killed her? You or the illness? He was completely silent. I've heard plenty of doctors come by, failing miserably, yet still walking away with a paycheck. I'm confident I can do this, so why shut me out? My neck is on the chopping block if this fails. Mine too, Gu Zijing declared, stepping up. And mine, Joanna chimed in. The two of them hadn't known me for very long, but they had already witnessed me pull off plenty of bizarre feats. Miraculous noodles, supernatural bows, enchanted fishing rods, and extraordinary potatoes. None of it was ordinary. Even if I messed up, they were bound to go down with me anyway. So they figured they might as well gamble on me. Miracles always seem to follow me around. Put me down too, old Zhang announced after pondering for a moment. Count me in as well. And just like that, 5 head were on the line. Sigh. All right, Fine. I'll bring you along, but keep in mind, if things go south, even I won't escape the blame. Don't sweat it, Mr. Wong. Nothing's gonna go wrong. I gave a confident smile. It was just an infected wound with a high fever. No way, I believe. A solid dose of heavy antibiotics couldn't fix it. Or maybe a strong shot of adrenaline. Once I inject her, the old lady will leap out of bed and bolt. Hell, she might even pump iron. Wait, barbells didn't even exist around here. Anyway, Wong got me in by framing me as a family doctor. Meeting the county magistrate was a breeze. Joe Warner and the rest of the crew waited in a separate room. We navigated through courtyards and halls. The magistrate was waiting inside his study. His name was Wong Muji, a man over 50. He had a square face and a short beard. With those wide eyes, folks claimed he was a just ruler, sharp with calligraphy, yet skilled on horseback. But worrying over his wife had left him looking worn and drained. His hair was streaked with gray, his spirit entirely broken. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, he inquired, "Where's your medical practice located? And what were your parents' names?" I whipped up a quick cover story. My folks were refugees, who arrived here and starved to death years ago. No prominent names, but our family specialized in treating this exact ailment. Wong was practically sweating bullets listening to this. If the magistrate caught onto the bluff, our heads would literally be on the chopping block. How is the lady doing? The longer this illness drags on, the tougher it is to cure. Please, take me to her. I wanted to cut the small talk short. Chu Ching Ching was still rotting in prison. My wife is in a comatose state right now. He sighed. Her pulse and breathing are incredibly faint. Yesterday, she couldn't even keep her medicine down. The master's gaze was completely blank. Are you certain about this, sir? If not, please don't even attempt it. The physician claimed today would be her final day. Wong broke out in a cold sweat once more. Her pulse is faint, and her breathing is shallow. She can't swallow. How am I supposed to rescue her? This wasn't regular medical treatment. This was straight up snatching a soul back from the Grim Reaper. He gave me a head shake, signaling we could still back out. Instead, I smirked. If you take a leap of faith with me, sir, I can give it a shot. Look, I can't guarantee a total miracle, but she's definitely not kicking the bucket today. Are you for real? Absolutely. But if it's just not possible. I cut him off mid-sentence. The master locked eyes with me for a long moment. All right then, come with me. He escorted us to a back room deep inside the house. I had braced myself beforehand, but catching sight of the elderly lady sent a chill straight down my spine. Exhausted didn't even begin to describe it. On her deathbed didn't cover it either. She was barely drawing breath in, with nothing coming back out. Her body was growing colder by the minute. Her pulse and respiration had nearly faded away entirely. I monitored her pulse and then stood up. My expression hardened. This wasn't about curing a sickness anymore. This was an all-out war against death itself. Staring down at the old lady, the brutal reality hit me. If I had shown up even a single hour later, no advanced machinery from my own era could have pulled her through. Initially, I figured a heavy dose of potent antibiotics would do the trick. But now I was going to need a massive shot of adrenaline too. How was she doing? The master caught my expression, his voice shaking. He was well aware of her condition. 2 physicians had already informed him that morning that she wouldn't survive past midday. They said not even a deity could save her now, and that he should start arranging her funeral. Yet, he was still holding out for a miracle. Even with a shred of hope, I sighed and put on a wise, mysterious act, and not just for show. I really needed to give her a shot, but I couldn't just tell the Lord to pull down his wife's trousers for an injection. In this day and age, men and women couldn't even touch through clothing. Saving a life required silk veils between them. So, I made some bizarre hand gestures and mumbled words that left the Lord and Wong utterly lost. I didn't exactly look like a physician. Honestly, I looked more like a fortune teller. Were they watching some magical ritual? They held their breath, terrified of disrupting me. Finally, I let out a deep sigh. There's still one last option I can try. The Lord's eyes flashed, his entire body trembling. If this young man could save his dying wife, he'd offer him absolutely anything, even his own life. But I hesitated, wanted to reel him in further. But what? Anything. Name your price. I sighed once more. It's quite complicated. To rescue your lady, I must sacrifice a decade of my own lifespan. I almost claimed her soul had been taken, forcing me to trek to the underworld to bring her back. But that was a bit too wild, even for this old world. So, I stuck with this story instead. I wanted the Lord to feel forever indebted to me. It worked. He clasped his hands and bowed deeply. Great healer, please rescue my wife. I'll do whatever you ask if it's in my power. I would gladly trade my own life. I helped him to his feet. My Lord, there's no need for that. Saving lives is the ultimate good. You're a decent, upright official. Whether it costs 10 years or 20, I'd still do it. I was tracking with my own BS. This illness is quite bizarre. I'll resort to acupuncture if things take a turn. Just bear with me, no matter what happens. Standing by her bedside from within my robes, I produced a handful of syringes. I cashed an A. Standard gotcha, pull along the way for medical gear. The system rewarded me with these. His lordship and Wong stared blankly. They'd never laid eyes on a syringe before. Graduated transparent cylinders filled with some strange fluid. They stood frozen. These are my family's soul retrieval needles. Don't disrupt me. I need absolute silence. I instructed the Lord to adjust his lady's garments. To avoid direct skin contact, he draped a sheer silk cloth over the injection sites. Each shot contained benign nutrients, which the system assured would do no harm either way. I jabbed them straight into her limbs. I didn't have a clue about acupoints. My only thought was, as long as I don't accidentally kill her, we're good. These were merely to prep her for the real medicine. Next, I stealthily retrieved the potent epinephrine and heavy-duty antibiotics from my pack, administering them directly into her outer thigh. All done. I withdrew the needles and packed them away. Taking a seat, I said, that wraps it up. The Lord was completely skeptical. He'd never witnessed medical treatment like this. His spouse was practically standing at death's door. Yet a couple of pricks, and it was over. Wong's brow was dripping with nervous sweat. Bringing me here had him scared out of his wits. But I had full faith in my system's remedies. I casually took a sip of tea. In less time than it takes an incense stick to burn. Your wife will come to. Say what? The Lord was left stunned once more. Was this brat pulling his leg? I just shrugged. Don't buy it? Are there any other physicians around? Indeed. 3 of them are waiting in the rear. Then have them come in once a single stick of incense has burned down. They can examine her pulse. His lordship went completely silent for a good while, before summoning the 3 physicians. As time ticked by, the trio stepped up one after another to check her vitals. Once they finished, every single one of their expressions dropped in identical shock, shifting from mocking me as some naive kid to staring wide-eyed in a total cold sweat. They were all fully aware of her ailment. They knew damn well her life's flame was fading fast. Earlier this morning, the lady had merely shown that final burst of energy before death. Yet now, by evening, her heartbeat was growing steady and strong, her breathing perfectly calm. A dying flash doesn't happen twice. Just who was this young guy? How on earth did he know how to pull someone back from the brink? The Lord was no fool. He caught their reactions immediately. He rushed over to feel his wife's pulse himself. It actually worked. Wong finally realized I hadn't been talking big. He had misjudged me out of petty arrogance. The Lord double-checked the prognosis with the doctors. His wife was indeed recovering. She'll come around shortly, I noted casually. Didn't I tell you it'd be fine? Do you buy it now? At that, he straightened his robes and dropped down onto one knee, clasping his hands in deep respect. Please, great healer, accept my humble bow. That completely threw me off. I quickly tried to pull him back up. Sir, what are you doing? You're a noble county magistrate. I'm just a nobody. This really isn't right. No, right at this moment. Social status means absolutely nothing to us. There's only my lifesaver and myself. Without you, my wife would have been a goner today. She my whole world. Keeping her alive is what keeps me going. Please, accept my deepest gratitude. He bowed once more. Talk about serious old-school etiquette. I honestly had no clue how to react. So, I helped him back to his feet. Snapping out of his shock, Wong chimed in with praise. Who knew my nephew's village housed such a legendary healer? Mind if I ask who trained you? I just gave him a deadpan look. The old guy was clearly milking this for credit. He wanted the Lord to remember that he was the one who brought me. My master is a wanderer in the mountains. He keeps a low profile and explicitly forbade me from revealing his identity. An absolute miracle. A genuine wonder. Please, sir. Hold on. I'll have a proper feast prepared for us. The Lord and Wong were hyping me up to the absolute heavens. If I hadn't been so stressed about Chu Ching Ching, they probably would have kept gushing until midnight. As soon as the timing felt right, I seized the opportunity. My lord, I have a favor to ask. What's on your mind? I laid out the whole story about Chu Chin Shang, heading into the city to barter fish for grain, and how Sun Hu and his guards slaughtered my ox just to feast on it. The lord was actually a decent magistrate, though he'd only governed Hong Nong County for a few years. He had already caught wind of Sun Hu's behavior, but he lacked concrete proof until now. Here in my account, his beard literally trembled with rage. Without even summoning Lao Jiang to corroborate the details, he resolved to get me justice on the spot. And so, the three of us set off. The Lord rounded up a few personal house guards, and we marched straight down to the dungeon. Deep inside the cells, Chu Ching Chong was huddled tightly against the wall, terrified and shivering uncontrollably from head to toe, as she watched a man slowly close in on her. Freeze! Don't you dare come near me. What's your deal? What do you think I want? The guy wore a sleazy smirk, his eyes filled with pure lust. Such silky skin. I have no idea how. That pathetic loser got lucky enough to score a wife like you. I guess a dying, starved man just want a couple weeks of bliss. With a gorgeous woman before kicking the bucket. With a body like that and a face like yours. Who could resist? He bent down to grab her. She delivered a sharp kick and rushed toward the iron bars. Help! Somebody please help. Feisty. I dig that. Makes it way more fun. He stood up, dusting off his clothes. Every single guard is out drinking with my brother. We're in the dungeon. Shout all you want. Nobody's coming. Look at that chest. Those wide hips, so pale and flawless. Absolute perfection. Chu Ching Chong kept backing away. But the cell was tiny, leaving her cornered. Hubby, quit crying out for that deadbeat. What's he gonna do, barge in and rescue you? Starving as he is, he could barely even crawl this far. Just wait until dawn breaks. Right after his head rolls. I'm taking your two sister wives for myself, too. Growing even more aroused, he lunged at her. He pinned her to the ground and began tearing at her dress. Just give in. I'll take good care of you. Fine dining and top-tier wine. She resisted fiercely, but she lacked the strength to throw him off. To preserve her virtue and her husband's dignity, she steeled herself to bite through her own tongue. My husband will make you pay for this. Him? Even if he had 10 times the nerve, he wouldn't dare step foot here. The guy needs a reality check. Honestly, I'm doing him a favor by taking his woman. I'll end up killing him eventually anyway. Right then, he caught the sound of approaching steps in my voice. Is that a fact? I don't need any extra nerve. I'm right here, so let's see you try to end me. Sun Hu glanced up, spotting me Wong alongside the county magistrate by the bars. The guard were busy unlocking the door. Darling, Shu Qingqing cried out in sheer relief. Catching Sun Hu completely off guard, she delivered a vicious kick right between his legs. As he shrieked, she sprinted straight to me. I caught her, my fury burning cold and absolute. Sun Hu's judgment day had finally arrived. She collapsed into my arms, and we clung to one another. All her bottled-up terror and agony burst out at once. Her whole body trembled as she wept like a wounded kitten. In my embrace, my arms serving as her ultimate safe haven, she simply refused to let go. Sweetheart, it's all right. You're safe now. There's no need to be afraid. I cradled her gently, soothingly rubbing her back. Sun Hu pushed past the agonizing pain in his crotch and stood up. Lord Wong, what brings you here? His face was dripping with cold sweat. He couldn't fathom how I'd arrived with the county magistrate. Sun Hu, Captain Sun, if I hadn't witnessed this firsthand, I'd never believe such trash was working under me. The magistrate's face flushed with pure rage. Sun Hu fell straight to his knees. Sir, this is all just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? In my mere few years in office. This is what goes on? You're begging for the executioner's block. Sir, I. Then, spinning around, he pointed directly at me. He bellowed, it's you. You orchestrated this. You set me up, Your Honor. Don't just take his word for it. Silence. I observed it with my own eyes. Mr. Wong witnessed it as well. Yet you still dare to lie. The magistrate summoned his guards. They pinned Sun Hu down while he desperately tried to resist. The magistrate wasn't having any of it. Fight back now, Sun Hu, and you're a dead man. Sun Hu completely deflated, totally crushed. He knew the game. He was just a low-ranking captain, while the Lord was way out of his league. Class 9 versus Class 7, a massive gap in power. Everything was stacked against him if he chose to fight. Even if he ran, the law would eventually hunt him down. Right then, he was utterly helpless. Half a lifetime of grinding just to make captain, now ruined in a single night. He was facing years in prison. Damn that Sun Jian. How long had he been hiding his true strength? How did he get the Lord on his side so quickly? His eyes flared with pure hatred. Hold on. I let go of Chu Chin Chung and stepped forward. Sun Hu barked. Who do you think you are, Sun Jian? Even if I'm being set up, you don't get say here. Only the Lord handles my sentencing. Not so nobody like you. I actually respected his nerve. Turning to the Lord, I said, before you penalize him, give me 10 minutes. Sun Hu scoffed, huh? A peasant giving orders to a county lord. The Lord cut him off. Sir, please take your time. The Lord even bowed slightly to me. Sun Hu's mind nearly snapped. A county lord bowing to a pauper? Who exactly was Sun Jian? Seriously, what the hell was going on? For a second, he thought he was dreaming, until I crouched down and smacked him hard across the face. Slap. A bright red handprint burned on his cheek. Agony surged straight through his skull. His body trembled as blood trickled from his lip. If it weren't for his combat conditioning, that single blow would have knocked him cold. Not so arrogant now, are we? I grabbed his swollen, throbbing cheek and wrenched it hard. He shrieked. My power was way beyond human limits now. I could have easily torn his face off. You got the guts to cross me? Slap. Telling me to take a look at myself? Slap. Saying you're going to end me sooner or later? Slap. Every single time, he tried talking back. I bash him again. Wong and the Lord just stood there frozen, watching. Totally silent. After 4 or 5 smacks, his teeth were pretty much knocked out. Blood and spit leaked straight down his chin. I held back my strength just enough to keep him conscious. Scumbags like him totally deserve this. Mark your own words well. Mess with the wrong guy, and you're dead. I stood up and glanced at Chu Ching Ching. I flashed a smile. Watch this. Your hubby is getting payback for you. Then I delivered a brutal kick to Sun Hu's gut. He ripped right out of the guard's hands, slammed into the wall, and passed out cold. Chu Ching Ching gasped, covering her mouth. Yet her eyes were brimming with love and affection for me. Forgive me, my lord. I snapped. I turned around to apologize. After all, I just thrashed a guy right before a magistrate. The Lord simply played dumb, acting like he saw nothing. He faced Wong. Did you notice anything out of line? Nope, not a thing. The inmate, Sun Hu, injured himself while resisting. I felt so grateful for these 2 old officials covering for me. I pulled Chu Ching Ching close into my arms again. So gorgeous. She snuggled against my chest like a little bird, her tender body pressing tightly into mine. A warmth spread through my core. It felt incredible. If this monster pulled a stunt like this, who knows what other sins he's pulled off? Look into everything. The county lord barked, absolutely livid. He looked over at Wong. Mr. Wong. Yes, sir. Lock him away. Deputy Gao will take charge of this case. Tear out every single rotten root. Absolutely. Wong was thrilled, giving me a deeply grateful look. Before this moment, he'd never have been trusted with such a major task. I'd given him his big break. Once everything wrapped up, I asked the Lord if my wife and I could take our leave. He mentioned he'd already prepared a feast for us, insisting on thanking me for saving his wife's life. I politely declined, mentioning I had prior arrangements. Then I won't hold you up, sir. I'll never forget what you did for me here. As soon as my business wraps up, I'll pay you a visit to thank you face to face. He ordered Wong to select the finest steeds and escorts to see me home, giving Wong a meaningful glance. Wong got the message. He was a seasoned official, after all. Right away, sir. After leaving the prison, Chu Ching Chong accompanied us back to Wong's place. I found it odd that we weren't heading to the courier station. Upon arrival, I spotted Lao Zhong waiting out front, while Gu Zijin and Zhou Weiner were right inside, pacing the floor out of sheer anxiety. Wong explained he'd sent for them earlier, right while we were at the jail. He wanted to surprise me, noting the station was way too crowded with strangers, and he didn't want my wives feeling uncomfortable there, seeing me return completely unscathed, and with Chu Chin Chung totally safe. My 2 wives were overjoyed. Gu Zijing's eyes welled up as tears began to fall. She flew into my arms, checking me over for any injuries. Zhou Weiner was thrilled too, though she played it a bit closer to the chest. She simply held Ching's hand, asking her gentle questions. Joanna still hadn't brought herself to call me husband. She was still keeping her distance. But ever since she joined our household, I didn't mind. That was always the way she carried herself. Most folks assumed she was covering up her history. But with the system on my side, I alone knew she was a princess guarding her dignity. A clever friend sees right through it, but keeps quiet. Mr. Sun, the night is getting late. The roads are dangerous, so please crash at my humble place tonight. Come morning, my guys will escort you back home. Wong pressed his palms together and bowed my way. He was so polite that the whole room went dead silent. Lao Zhang, Joe Warner, and Guo Zijing just goggled at us. Sir, Mr. Sun, I couldn't help but reevaluate the guy. When we first arrived at Wong's place earlier, he had been arrogant and completely rude. He totally looked down on me. Yet now, he was a totally different person. Lao Zhang's jaw literally dropped. He knew how incredibly proud his uncle could be. He'd never seen him treat a poor guy with such respect. Once I agreed to stay, Wong moved fast. He had a room set up in no time. He even brought hot water for a foot soak before we hit the sack. Back inside the room, the trio was thrilled that we'd made it through that mess. Sitting on the bed, I scanned the cramped quarters. A post officer holds an official rank, right? Why is this place so run down? Joe Warner sighed. War is breaking out everywhere as kingdoms clash. Bandits pillage the countryside and fields are barren. This actually isn't half bad. Other officials might not even get a square meal. For a low-ranking post officer like him, even a county magistrate might live exactly like this. Count your blessings. Oh, you seem to know a whole lot. I picked up on her slip and teased her on purpose. The other two stared at her with curious expressions. She caught herself off guard, her cheeks instantly flushing like a startled rabbit's. I'm just a woman. What do I know? I'm just repeating gossip. I get it. I gave her a knowing smile. Ever since moving in with me, she'd kept her distance. She hadn't even called me husband once. Sure, she had some feelings for me, but anyone could tell she was acting weird. Without my system, I'd never have guessed she was a princess of the Zhou. She was totally coddled and spoiled. The type folks back in my old world would say had princess syndrome. Tough to win over. Still, she was already my wife on paper. If she wanted to play hard to get and hide it, fine. A wise guy sees right through it, but keeps his mouth shut. Husband, did you really rescue the county lord wife? Gu Zijing was way more curious about how I got Chu Qingqing out safe and sound. Yeah, why else would Wong treat you like that? Yo Wuna chimed in. They couldn't think of any other reason. Chu Qingqing was quick. She pieced it together. It wasn't just Wong. The county lord himself addressed her husband as Mr. Sunday. He treated him like an honored guest. Wow. Gu Zijing's eyes filled with admiration. To get that kind of treatment, the lord's wife must have been gravely ill. Every doctor gave up, but my husband saved her, and then demanded me as his reward. Chu Qingqing figured it out instantly. Husband, you're incredible. You know so much, even medicine. Husband, are you really just a regular villager? She grabbed my hand and looked up at me with starry eyes. Her sudden affection made me blush a little. Cough as long as you. Relax, we're totally safe. I'm just an ordinary local. Born and bred here. You're right, like anyone's buying that. Zhou Wanna grumbled, cut the chatter, wives. It's bedtime. Kicking off my shoes, I climbed onto the mattress and began stripping down. I stripped right down my waist. Chu Qingqing and Gu Zijing blushed deeply, quickly averting their eyes, while Zhou Wanna shielded her gaze. Whoa, what on earth are you doing? Why are you stark naked? Why shouldn't I be? Shrugging it off, I went ahead and shed my underwear too. There's plenty of space on this bed for all four of us. We're legally married. The government office has the paperwork to prove it. I'm shelling out 150 pounds of grain a month for this place. So why shouldn't I strip down? Is there a law against it? Look, I'm exhausted, and I am absolutely not sleeping on the floor. Neither are any of you. Everyone, get up on the bed. No way. We'll take the floor instead. Zhou Wanna grabbed Gu Zijing's arm with a defiant smirk. Gu Zijing was actually feeling quite flustered herself. She wasn't genuinely opposed to sharing a bed with me, but as a proper lady, she couldn't just openly admit she wanted to. That would be way too embarrassing. Had I just pulled her up onto the mattress myself, she probably would have gone along with it. I sighed and shook my head. Handling 3 wives in a single night was a tall order. Maybe focusing on one at a time was a better approach. So I inquired, all right, how do you want to arrange sleeping? Sister Gu and I will stay here. I'll fetch some bedding for the floor, and you can take Sister Chu. She playfully poked her tongue out at me, before heading off to grab quilts from the adjacent room. Chu Qingqing's face flushed as red as a tomato, blushing all the way down her neck while standing completely frozen. Perhaps I should just let it go and have all 3 of them share the bed. while I relegated myself to the floor once more. Even with my notoriously thick skin, it felt pretty awkward, trying to cozy up to her while the other two watched right there. Never mind. You three take the bed. I'll just crash on the floor. I began throwing my clothes back on. The three froze. Chu Ching Chong murmured softly. Husband, please sleep on the bed. You had a rough day. If you don't want me, I can sleep on the floor with the sisters. What? When did I ever not want you? I sat straight up and pulled her close. Holding her hand, I asked, if you don't mind me, why wouldn't you sleep by my side? Tears began streaming down her face. Hey, why the waterworks? Please don't cry. Panicking, I tried to clarify. If I didn't care about you, would I have risked my own neck? To rescue the Lord's wife. I know you're good to me. I know you're no ordinary man. Marrying you is the absolute best thing in my life. Silly girl, you're so sweet it hurts. I wiped her tears and gathered her into my arms. Marrying you is my good fortune too. That simple phrase struck a chord deep inside her. Her eyes overflowed with affection. The other two just watched. Guzi Jean felt a pang of jealousy, but stayed quiet. Zhao Wanner looked away to hide her own messy emotions about me. With a gorgeous woman in my embrace, so soft and warm, a fire lit up inside me. I scooped her up and brought her over to the bed. She buried her face right into my chest. I pulled the covers over us, feeling her body, her soft skin white as snow, her flawless curves, her breath mingling with mine. Even back in my old world, she'd be a total goddess. Guazijing heard the quiet rustling and watched the clothes slipping away beneath the blanket. Her fists clenched tight, her eyes growing red. Wanna felt pretty bitter, too, though she coped with it way better, giving Gazijian's shoulder a soft pat. As the light died down, I was there with Chu, Ching Ching, completely vulnerable with one another. The bed rocked gently to sounds of pure bliss. Joanna and Gazijian tossed and turned all night, flooded with a whirlwind of emotions. This guy was an enigma, downright mesmerizing. Without even realizing it, they'd fallen hard too. Zhuowan was certain of one thing, though. If she ever wanted to make it back to the Zhua estate, a solid 600 miles away, only this guy could pull it off. Guzi Jin's mind was somewhere else entirely. She wasn't hung up on my true identity, but debated whether to surrender her heart completely, letting me spearhead her revenge, or clear her family's name from the blacklisted rebels. We were spouses on paper, but if she wasn't feeling it, I wouldn't force her. Yet as the days rolled by, her feelings grew, branding him as her chosen destiny. She made a silent vow right then and there. If he can vindicate my family, I'll devote myself to him forever, even as a maid. The night flew by, and I overslept. Morning had broken, and the three women were up at dawn, deliberately letting me sleep in. Hubby, you're finally up, Gu Zijing said, catching me getting dressed. Blushing fiercely, she stepped up to help adjust my robes. Her sudden affection caught me off guard. Maybe last night's racket had left them restless, making them crave a little taste of the action too. Where'd the other two go? They headed down early to pitch in with breakfast. The food's on the table, and we've all eaten. We were just waiting on you. Gizi Jean finished doing up my clothes and let me next door. Chu Ching Ching and Zhou Wana were waiting inside. In the moment they spotted me, both turned bright red and gestured for me to join them. As we hit the road from Wang's place, I saw that Lao Jiang had split. He hadn't shown his face since yesterday evening, but seeing as this belonged to his uncle, I didn't pry. Wang and his crew had horses, a wagon, and security details set to go. The wagon was packed tight with provisions and crops. Wang let me know the magistrate had sent this stuff over. He couldn't hook me up with cash just yet, but this ought to tide me over. By my count, 300 pounds of food cover my family's crop taxes for 2 whole months. I was absolutely thrilled. They even threw in a plaque inscribed with Hero's family. Wang warned me that with this much food around, scavengers might come snooping. That sign would tell folks to back off. The chief really thought of everything, even providing an escort back home. So, obviously, I took the offer. I headed back with my 3 wives. Little did I know, the rumor about how I cured his spouse, using some miracle cure, had already spread everywhere. We made it back to the settlement around dusk. The second we stepped off the wagon, I noticed a mob gathered by my front entrance. What's going on? Why are you guys crowding my place? Once they spotted me, they cleared a path. Their expressions were full of jealousy now, not the old resentment. Weird. What's up with them? Did they all get sick or something? Just then, Lao Zhuang came dashing out. His face was smudged, clutching a mason's trowel. Sun Jian, you returned. Check it out. He motioned behind him toward my property. My face lit up. The rundown shack was gone. The battered courtyard was gone. And the whole place had been completely remodeled. Just basic mud bricks and clay tiling. But it looked tidy and sturdy now. The walls stood taller and more robust. The gate was made of heavy timber. It looked imposing, built to keep out any thieves. Wow. The trio stepped off the cart and stared. They were absolutely thrilled. What's all this? I was both delighted and baffled, while Lao Zhang scratched his head. The magistrate had ordered my uncle to pull this off as a surprise. It all made sense to me now. Wang had given Lao Zhang 20 pounds of grain and a swift mount the day before. He instructed him to purchase materials, recruit some laborers, and wrap up before my return. No wonder Lao Zhang had vanished in a thin air last night. He'd rushed back on horseback to renovate my place. The upgraded house felt great. Lao Zhang had even converted the adjoining room into a guest space. From that moment on, even if my wives didn't share my bed, at least they wouldn't have to rough it on the floor. Once the hero's family plaque was put up, crowds gathered outside my doorstep every day. I'd assumed my tale would only reach a select few, but in this slow news era, I was totally wrong. Within days, my name became famous across the neighboring villages. A new rumor cropped up every single day. Some claimed deities taught me medicine in my dreams, while others insisted I had mastered dark arts, deep within the mountains. Neighbors who used to ignore me suddenly started dropping by. Most of them were local women, trying to cozy up to my wives. Johanna wasn't having any of it. So Chu Qingqing and Gu Zijin dealt with the bulk of the guests. Folks came to ask for grain loans. Some brought offerings, and others came to beg for help. Even the village chief, who had previously mocked me, visited multiple times, armed with sweet talk. A once starving orphan who now had backing from the magistrate. Who'd dare cross him now? Best to get on his good side fast, hoping to dodge any payback for past grievances. Personally, I couldn't care less about their sudden change of heart. Folks have always gravitated toward power. As long as they didn't mess with my plans, it was fine. But now that I had some clout, recruiting hands and clearing land would be a breeze. I hadn't exactly been slacking lately, either. I had the three of them help me cultivate the super potato sprouts. Those super potatoes shot up incredibly fast. Starting from just a few hundred plants, we were up to nearly 10,000. They completely packed the courtyard. Relying on my old farming experience, I figured a single acre could accommodate 4,000 ordinary crops. Ours would be hillside terrain, though, and these super potatoes were massive. Just one of them matched the size of 4 regular ones. So, we'd do 500 plants per acre. That meant we needed to clear roughly 17 or 18 acres of wilderness. Clearing 17 to 18 acres, plus preparing the soil, planting, watering, and harvesting, I need at least 20 laborers. 20 guys will go through 10 pounds of grain daily. That's 300 pounds a month plus. I muttered to myself, "Husband, have some water." Chu Qingchong offered a cup, smiling sweetly. She rested her chin in her hand, keeping her eyes on me. How adorable. Just then, the door creaked open. Gu Zijin Wilding. "Husband, Lao Zhang is back. Looks like he's sorted it out. Send him in." Lao Zhang stepped inside. "How'd it go? All taken care of. Got 20 workers lined up, young and ready to hustle. They're waiting at the gate right now, totally starving. Every single one is scrawnier than me. No witties. Feed him well today. Full bellies make for good hustle." I had already instructed my wives to whip up some meat porridge and steam some grain buns for them. I wasn't some heartless boss. "Great job, Lao Zhang. I only gave you this assignment 2 days ago, and it's already done." I patted his shoulder. "Don't give me too much credit. There's a famine going on, so displaced people are everywhere. Just feed them, and they'll do whatever it takes." Having delivered his report, he'd earned those 10 pounds of grain. But what? He let out a sigh. Plenty of folks showed up, but it's mostly women and kids. Their husbands couldn't cough up the grain, so the army hauled them off. I genuinely feel bad for them. But look, this is brutal labor. Women and kids are basically just freeloaders right now. I saw him in a completely whole new light. He actually possessed a soft heart, whereas I didn't. My only priority was keeping my own family fed. Back when I was on the brink of starvation, nobody threw me a bone, so I wasn't about to play the savior. "Did you bring the gear?" "Yeah, a few wooden spades and wooden pickaxes." He held them up. "Oh, come on. These are totally useless. They'd snap just trying to scoop up dog crap. Even ordinary soil would be way too tough for these, let alone rocky hillside terrain. Well, this is all we've got. Anyone with iron gear sold it off for food ages ago." I merely shook my head. "Ditch the wooden junk. Besides, you don't even have enough. Quit stressing over the gear. I'll have proper iron tools set to go before we break ground." I still had 3 lottery draws left up my sleeve. This wouldn't be a problem at all. Young flashed that skeptical face of his yet again. 20 agricultural tools made of actual, real iron. Iron was insanely precious. There was no way to hoard that much. Could I have lugged them all from the city? But he hadn't spotted a single one. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. So he gave up trying. Miracles seemed to follow me around. If I claimed I had them, then I had them. Fair enough. Still, Sunjin, regarding that point you made, can it genuinely be pulled off in just a single month? What? Are you seriously doubting me again? It just sounds totally wild. I'm anxious, is all. You're feeding all these mouths, burning through crops, and getting zero harvest. Even if the Almighty has your back, when tax day hits, the troops would demand their grain. If you can't deliver, not even God can save you. I tapped his shoulder. Quit stressing. Get them fed and back to work. You'll get your cut, ching, zin. Go grab food with Warner. I need some space. To clear my head. Understood. Once alone, I booted up the system interface. The figures blew my mind. Zhou Warner's favor was at 32, climbing by 7. Guoziyun's favor hit 37, marking a 10-point jump. Chu Qingqing's favor reached 49, surging by 15. Why such a massive spike without any alerts? The system previously notified you. Milestone updates and rewards trigger solely at 10, 20, and 50 points, correct? I forgot. 50 is the maximum cap. Once they pass 50, their devotion becomes permanent. Their loyalty will never waver. Then, the system locks onto a brand new target. Oh, sweet. I nodded, but then a cold sweat broke out. Hold on, don't couple me with Lao Zhong or Sun Hao. I'd rather drop dead than win their affection. The AI practically facepalmed. Negative. The system exclusively selects individuals tied to you. As the platform levels up, you will track 5 affinity targets simultaneously. That was a relief. So all 3 girls already care for me. It's just a matter of degree. Awesome news. I pulled up my attributes. Power, 68. Agility, 50. Intellect, 80. Charisma, 70. Inventory, 19 potent antibiotics, 9 fishing rods. 4 recurve bows with 90 arrows, 9 epinephrine pens. Gotcha rolls, 2 rare and 1 epic. Time remaining, 2 days, 12 hours. Just 58 minutes left before they poof into thin air. My charm went up by 10, probably from the fame. Let's burn 1 rare lottery category. Agricultural tools. Ding. Rare lottery unlocked. Choose quantity or quality. Gimme quantity. High in quality is useless to me right now. I'd already blown both. Standard lottery pulls on the Lord's wife. So I had to waste a rare one on equipment. Total buzzkill, but there's no choice. You've acquired 100 sets of premium iron farming tools, now stored in your inventory. Use the next rare lottery category. Cereal seeds and vegetable seeds. Go for quantity again. Ding. You've received 100 massive sacks of premium grain seeds and organic veggie seeds, now stored in your inventory. System lottery rewards can be kept indefinitely. I shut down the UI since the seeds could sit for a bit. Once we get 2 rounds of super potatoes harvested, food shortage won't be an issue. That's when I'll plant these seeds. I whipped out 10 iron shovels, 10 iron rakes, 10 hoes, and 5 iron plows straight from my inventory. I gathered everyone inside. When the 3 wives and Lao Zhang spotted the pile of iron gear just sitting there, they were completely floored again. This. Poor Lao Zhang practically choked on a massive stutter. Clutching the tools, he gaped at me with his jaw on the floor. Ow, where on earth did these come from? Folding my arms, I said, don't dig into it. Just chalk it up to me knowing some divine magic. The wives traded glances with each other. They were dead certain now that I wasn't just some ordinary guy. Maybe a fallen deity, but definitely not a demon. After all, demons wouldn't be this dirt poor. They snapped out of their shock pretty quickly. Witness enough miracles, and you eventually get numb to the surprise. Cut the chatter. I'm putting you guys in charge of these tools. The real work kicks off right after harvest. You take a 30% cut, and I'll wait a single month for the harvest. I gave his shoulder a pat, while he gave himself a pinch. It actually hurt, so it wasn't a dream. He stared at me like I was some kind of agricultural deity. He stopped questioning whether I possessed magic. If I did, then a 1-month harvest turnaround was probably real, too. He was going to strike it rich. He grabbed the equipment and began hauling it all outside. Our grain deficit was officially sorted out. Fresh veggies and proper nutrition wouldn't be an issue anymore, either. I intended to take it easy for a bit before tackling my next project. But I totally forgot. Prominent men always invite trouble. Just like fat hogs practically beg for the slaughterhouse. These years of warfare brought out displaced refugees and outlaws. The hero's family plaque kept the beggars at bay. But it didn't stop the bandits that evening. I was just messing around, flirting with my wives, building up some intimacy when a sudden noise came from outside. Crash. Clatter. Husband. Someone's out there, Gaziji whispered, being the first to notice. That's no stray cat. An intruder is scaling our courtyard wall. Maybe it's just a starving soul looking for food? Joanna inquired in a low voice. No way. It's way too late for that. Starving people. Wouldn't have the energy to hop our fence. I kept my cool. She's right. Scaling walls at this hour means it's a thief or a robber. Gu Zijin muttered, Sho. Chu Qingqing quickly masked her mouth. She clung to me tightly, and Joanna was terrified as well. Only Gu Zijin managed to keep her composure. The entire room fell dead silent. I'll go check. She grabbed her blade, but I quickly caught her wrist. It's too risky. Let me handle this. Just a few brief words, but they totally touched her heart. Before she could even reply, I'd already flung the door open. A razor-sharp dagger came flying straight at my face. It was way too close and incredibly fast. Fully dodging it was impossible. I could only jerk my head aside. The blade sliced right across my neck. Warm blood started dripping down. The assailant was masked and dressed in all black. I couldn't see a thing, just a sudden chill, followed by sharp pain. Damn it. I had one shot while his guard was down, so I landed a hard kick to his gut. He went flying back 5 paces and hit the dirt. The 3 girls rushed to my side, asking if I was injured. I checked my neck, feeling blood on my fingertips, and covered the gash. It's just a scratch. I'll be fine. Man, if I hadn't activated the system to boost my stats, that blow would have taken me out. Who is this guy? Why try to assassinate me tonight? I ran through a list of my enemies. Only Sun Hao and Sun Wu crossed my mind, but the Lord already had both of them locked away. Zhu Qingjian tore a piece of her cloth to press against my neck. Her eyes filled with heartache. Gu Zijian unsheathed her blade and charged straight at the masked assassin. You hurt my man, and you think you're getting away? Zhuwana was completely panicking. I'll fetch the ointment for your wounds, husband. Does it hurt? A little, but it's manageable. I watched Gu Zijian trade blows with the dark figure. She took control of the fight instantly. Within a few exchanges, she swept him off his feet. Right then, she pinned him down with her boot and held the blade to his throat. Have mercy, milady, please. You attacked my husband and nearly ended his life. Why on earth should I let you live? She pressed harder, and blood began trickling down his neck. No, don't kill me. Zijian, hold on. I walked over and ripped off his face covering. He looked around 35, with a rugged expression and prominent cheekbones. A long scar ran from his right eye down to his ear, giving him a sinister look. Who are you? What's your reason for trying to kill me tonight? I stomped right on his face. No point in being polite with this kind of trash. He shrieked as my patience began to wear thin. I'll count to 3, and if you don't start talking, I'll end you and just report it as a casualty. 1. Okay, I'll talk. Please don't kill me. Spit it out then. I shifted my foot down to his chest. My name is Scar, but folks call me Lil Knife. I just came here to scout. Scout? Gu Zijin clearly hadn't heard that term before, honey. What does scout mean? Chu Qingqing chimed in. Wow, you seriously don't know? Scouting means gathering intelligence. Zhou Wanner explained, giving Chu Qingqing some courage. Where are you from? Who are you spying for? Man, she looked so incredibly cute trying to be fierce. I nearly kissed her right then and there. But I still had one hand pressing on my wound. I'm from Wolfhead Mountain. Wolfhead Mountain? That name rang a bell. I dug through my old memories until it clicked. Damn, that's that notorious outlaw peak. It's at roughly 40 kilometers west of our village. A literal den of thieves with hundreds of bandits plundering, murdering, and stripping everything bare. A few years back, they only targeted wealthy folks. But ever since the Qian and Zhou went to war, and other kingdoms threw themselves into the fray, coupled with the famine, even the rich ran out of food. With soldiers guarding the city gates, the bandits turned to raiding helpless villages instead. Pure survival made everyone look out for themselves. Forget honor, they just robbed anyone holding grain. Bandits? Chu Qingqing gasped in terror, and ducked behind me, while Zhou Wanner frowned. Only Gu Zijin and I managed to keep our cool. So what if they're bandits? We kill him today, no paperwork needed. The rest of his crew won't suspect a thing. She lifted her blade. Hold up, I blocked her again. But why, husband? He nearly took your life. He's a thug. We can't just let him off. I let out a sigh. Offing him now just screws us. You aren't local, so you don't get it. There are outlaws to our west, and Tiger Plate Mountain sits right to the north. Roughly 1,000, maybe 700 or 800 guys, just 80 kilometers out. This dude is merely a scout. Once these gangs deploy their scouts, they're gonna raid, dead or alive. Pretty soon, they'll hit our village, and there's no way we can escape it. Even Gu Zijing looked completely stunned, as did the other two. Damn, big brother. You seriously know how our world works. The bandit actually threw a compliment my way. Even if you take me out, they're still coming. Better let me pack up. I'll pass the word. There's 0 food and no women around here. Shut your trap. Gu Zijing booted him square between the legs. He shrieked. Husband, what's the move? Should we tip off the magistrate? Joe Warner chimed in. Yeah, You're the Lord Star guy. He'll back you up, right? If reporting actually fixed things, these raiders wouldn't have survived for years. I scoffed coldly. But husband, the Lord, is no saint. Why does he let them run wild? I breathed a heavy sigh and laid out. The Lord's only been running this place for 2 years. But these gangs have been entrenched for over 6. They run incredibly deep. On top of that, we're right by the Dezhou border. 300 kilometers out, the able-bodied men get drafted into the military. So the few guards left can barely cover the city itself. They don't have the bandwidth for distant thieves. Besides, those outlaw camps sit outside our county line, meaning the Lord has 0 jurisdiction there. Not to mention, our own folks are still starving every single day. No cash, no rations. Without resources, even well-meaning officials are helpless. Hiding won't solve anything. We pack up today. But if we leave for good, when can we ever return? We don't have a place in the city. We can't just crash at someone else's house forever. Joanna was sharp. She could tell I had a plan. So, what's the play when trouble hits? We handle it. That put the trio at ease again. I had a strategy. They just needed to trust me. Then, my next words completely shattered that calm. Since they chose to target me. Those 2 bandit strongholds have no reason to exist anymore. What? The 3 of them gasped in unison, frozen. Even the bandit pinned to the ground was stunned. This guy was nuts. Wipe out their entire factions? Insane. With what kind of military force? Even a kid knows the basic rule of warfare. To surround a fortress, you need 3 times the enemy's numbers. 5 times to launch an assault. And those must be trained troops. Tiger Plate Mountain alone had 2,000 bandits. Wolfhead had 500. Combined, that's nearly 3,000. Even if we mobilized all the city guards, we wouldn't even hit a total of 3,000 men. Those bandits are seasoned killers. Every last one is drenched in blood. Was what I said really that big of a joke? What? Why is everyone staring at me like that? Glancing around, I noticed their bizarre, wide-eyed expressions. Darling, you actually want to exterminate the bandits? Yeah, what's the big deal? They've held that ground for years. There are thousands of them. I shrugged. A few thousand? Even if there were 10,000, I'd still wipe them off the map. I stepped outside. Bring him along. We're going to see the village elder. They followed behind me, still completely shell-shocked. Joanna kept her eyes locked on my back the entire way. She just couldn't wrap her head around how I'd pull this off. Based on everything I'd pulled off, I wasn't the type to just talk a big game. I was a one-of-a-kind genius with magic medicine, bizarre gadgets, and devastatingly powerful weapons. A name truly worthy of the history books. Yet, at the end of the day, my body was purely mortal. Thugs could still cut me, and I was bleeding right now. How on earth was I supposed to take down thousands of ruthless killers? Guaziyun and Chu Qingqing weren't even sweating my strategy as much as they were stressing over my injury. Don't sweat it. Hubby's a great fighter. Sister Joe and I saw it with our own eyes. Gu Zijin said, reassuring Chu Qingqing. We eventually reached the home of the village chief, Sun Liangji. He and his wife hurried outside to greet us. Chief, don't bother with tea. I'm not here for small talk. I'm going to give it to you straight. This guy's a bandit from Wolfhead Mountain. He was sent to scope out our village. I managed to nab him. They'll raid us within 5 days. What are you saying? What bandits? Wolfhead Mountain? The chief gasped, terrified. He stared at the captive in sheer horror. I gave the thug a kick. Show the chief your proof. Big brother, I really am a bandit. Shut your mouth. Say one extra word, and I'll rip your tongue out. The bandit clamped his mouth shut instantly. He'd probably thought he could easily slip away from mere villagers. But this guy was built different. He wasn't some regular local. He was terrifying. The thug pulled back his sleeve, revealing a wolf head tattoo on his arm. The chief stumbled backward and collapsed hard onto a stone millstone. Speechless, he just sat there. Having lived here for nearly 50 years, he recognized that brand. It's over. We're doomed. I leaned closer. The chief and his wife were dripping with sweat. Good heavens, this is terrifying. Seriously, what now? How can we not be scared? Our village is marked for death. Chill out. I came to discuss exactly this. I've got a plan to deal with the bandits. But I need your help. Run? Sun Jian, tell the villagers to hide out in the back hills. Bring food. Hey, old man, did you even hear what I just said? I was a loss. Was he so terrified he'd lost his mind? What did you say? I repeated. I have a way. I need your help. You're going to handle bandits. The chief checked my forehead for a fever, then felt his own. Boy, back in the day, the village looked down on you. Some bullied you, but that's because you were lazy. Still, I apologized. You learn medicine and save the Lord's wife. Don't go crazy now, just because bandits are coming. I gave up. Fina, if you're too scared, tell the village to run. I'll handle this myself. Chief, My husband has a plan. Why must we flee? If the bandits burn the village down, where will we return to? Chu Ching spoke up for me. He's fighting hundreds of bandits. Sun Jian, don't blame me for being skeptical. How sure are you? Human lives aren't a joke. I gave a weary smile. If you trust me and help, it's 100%. Without you, only 70. You. The chief stared at me, trying to read my eyes. He couldn't. He sighed, fine. Tell me your plan first, and I'll judge. I got straight to the point. Simple. Tear down some of the villagers' houses. Take all their grain, dig up their cellars, and gather all their ropes. What? He jumped up, his face flushing red. He pointed a finger at me, shaking with rage. He couldn't even speak. The three elders froze in shock, too. Tear down houses? Take the grain. Digging bunkers, grabbing ropes. That's exactly how thugs behave. I sounded like a rogue myself, not someone trying to stop them. Call me husband. Chu Chin-chung looked completely lost. I realized I had to clarify things or get kicked out. Look, I know how bad that sounded, but it's our only shot at wiping out those outlaws. Bullshit. Zip it. If I didn't know you were raised around here, I'd swear you were a mole for the bandits. Get lost, he barked, stomping his foot. Even if our village is ruined, we won't let you do this. Get out of here before I yell for help. Hubby, please just make it clear, Gaziji urged, pulling me back. If I didn't sort this out right now, the locals would turn on each other. Before the raiders even showed up. Yeah, make it make sense. For a second, even I thought you were an informant. Joanna rolled her eyes. This old guy has a major temper. I throw my hands. Those bandits are a massive, brutal mob. Without ruthless tactics, we stand zero chance. Demolishing the structures means I need timber from abandoned shacks to set up traps. The outlaws will get crushed or pinned down and die. I'm not talking about tearing down occupied homes. Oh, Joanna clapped. What about confiscating the crops? Address me as your husband, and I'll explain. Blushing fiercely, she snapped. No way. All right, Fine. You don't have to. About gathering the grain. It's a time of starvation. The raiders are coming for supplies and women. If the food supply is scattered across different houses, it becomes impossible to manage. We aren't short on weapons. We're short on willing fighters. If the provisions stay divided, the residents will only focus on protecting their own kin. When the marauders strike, some folks will panic and try to flee. Fleeing takes food away, and less food breeds chaos. That chaos will cause the entire community to crumble. That's why we must pool all the grain and audit every single pound. Once the bandits are dead, we'll return it. I've got plenty of grain back home. I don't want a single bit of theirs, ugh. This is burning our bridges. No going back now, only forward. Gu Zijing's eyes lit up, lure the snake out, and wait in ambush to crush the exhausted enemy. Joanna added, while I nodded along. Digging the cellars means we can hide the elderly, the kids, and the women inside the tunnels. With tunnel warfare, the strong men can fight without worrying. And gathering ropes is just to tie up the bandits. There are hundreds of them. Where else would I get ropes? The three looked at me with total adoration in their eyes. The village chief was deep in thought. Honestly, my strategy was pretty solid. With the right traps set and no reinforcements coming for them, we actually stood a real chance. Sun Jian, you claim to have weapons. Where from? His voice sounded a bit calmer now. My husband manufactures weapons himself. His bows are absolutely incredible. Even total novices can hit targets from 100 paces away. Gu Zijing totally sold me out, so I shot her a glare. She's so naive, she acts like my bows are infinite. I only had a few left in my inventory. Without pulling another lucky draw, weapons were going to be a real issue. Ew, you can forge iron weapons too? How did I never know? The chief doubted me once again. What did I become so clever? Focused and sharp at planning? This wasn't that lazy, good-for-nothing old Sun Jian. Plus all the medicine and weaponry. Was this even a real Sun Jian? See, he's just been hiding his true power. Even the chief, who watched him grow up, had no clue. Joanna whispered to Chu Ching didn't catch the skepticism in it. She just felt incredibly proud. Yep, our husband can't achieve anything. He's your husband, not mine. Joanna countered, reminding her, he is not my spouse. My man has to be of noble birth. With only the emperor outranking him. That final bit was muttered softly under Joanna's breath. Her life in the royal court had molded her that way. She wasn't even aware that she was masking her true feelings for me. She simply refused to look into her own heart. I didn't catch their whispering, though. I just nudged the village elder forward. Save it. I already know plenty. I don't need to lay it all out for you. Are you going to pitch in or not? If not, I'll handle this alone while you guys flee. But once those bandits clear out, don't come crying to me when your homes are gone. I can't protect every single house. Sun Liangji finally made his choice. I'd help if we actually stood a chance. Why not try? I'm putting my own family on the line, too. Running means coming back to ashes. All right, then. No time to waste. We move tonight. My strategy has 3 steps. First, take this captive bandit to the east side of town. Rally the locals and warn them that bandits are coming. Inform them that I've summoned the military. Second, the troops will take at least 5 days to arrive. Until they do, all grain must be pooled together. No ordin. The elderly, women, and kids need to take cover. Dig interconnected tunnels between every home. Third, gather the able-bodied men to set up traps and trenches with me. Any questions? Just one. The elder replied. Calling the army is fine. Rallying folks is fine, and digging is fine. But people won't hand over their food without a fight. Simple. Just tell them. Their harvest is being stored in a neighbor's bunker. They're stressed about their crops being seized, but also fear losing it all if hidden at home. So they'll chip in. It totally makes sense. I'll tell them to gather east of the village. In an hour, he tied up the thug and hit the road door to door with his wife. Pretty soon, the trusted locals assembled. I headed home with my wives, walking in silence as I brainstormed some traps. Do you reckon hubby can actually wipe out all the bandits? For the last time, he's your husband. Not mine, she thought to herself, but kept it internal. Do you trust him? Of course I do. I'm just worried he'll get hurt. Those bandits are bad news. Don't sweat it. He throws down just as well as you. A female warrior is a rare sight these days. If not for the war, you'd be a general's daughter at least. Guo Zijing's heart skipped a beat, her face going pale. She tried to brush it off. Hey, I'm just kidding. Zhuo Wanner didn't push it. Her own backstory was buried deep too. Prying into Guo Zijing's business would only mean digging up her own. So, she quickly shifted gears. Has he ever tackled anything he wasn't sure of? Sister Zhua might not notice, but you should see how many schemes our man has pulled off. Let me count. Anticipating their arrival and letting them walk right into it, that's one. Flipping their own plot to lie in ambush. Setting traps for them while keeping ourselves safe. That's wearing out the enemy while we take it easy. Locking the gates to corner the thief. Using decoy troops to collect the provisions. Talk about catching the perfect breeze. Burning his bridges behind him. The brilliant way he outsmarted the boss and set the trap. That makes even more maneuvers. 6 ploys already. Do you really think he stands a chance? Gu Ziyun was completely struck with awe. Spotting them whispering, I spun around. What's with the muttering? Move it. We've got chores to do back home. On my way back, I pulled out my final 4 bows and 90 arrows. I instructed Gu Zijian to train Chu Qing, and Zhou Wanner in archery out in the yard. Meanwhile, I hit my bedroom to access the system. I had exactly 1 epic lottery draw remaining. After this, my next shot wouldn't come until Chu Qing. Qing's favorability was completely maxed out. Gu Zijian and Zhou Wanner stood at 37 and 32. Nowhere near 50, and they hadn't budged lately. I needed a new strategy. System lottery. Weapons or traps? Ding. Please select only one category. Crap. Fine, give me modern weaponry then. A couple of tanks would do nicely. Or maybe some AK rifles. I massaged my temples. I nearly demanded a rocket launcher. I could just herd those bandits together and blow them to bits. Ding. Modern arms are strictly available via random. Weapon lottery. No good in these. What if I just end up with bows instead of firearms? What about explosives? Ding. Items altering this timeline. Too drastically are restricted. Only random. Whatever traps it is, those won't rewrite history. Ding. Epic lottery initialized. Quantity or quality? Quantity, obviously. You receive 100 automated rolling iron logs, 100 rolling firestones, 10 infrared trigger ballistas with 1,000 massive bolts, 100 tripwire crossbows with 1,000 steel arrows, 100 oversized snare nets, 10,000 concealed iron caltrops, 20 spring-loaded horse barriers, and 100 hidden pit spike arrays. Damn, this epic lottery is the real deal. With this massive haul of traps, mostly automated or infrared, setting them up won't require any expertise at all. If I unleash all of this, hundreds of bandits will die. Even a force of 10,000 soldiers in a prime position wouldn't survive this first epic lottery reward. You also receive 5 anti-personnel landmines and 1 premium tier gift box. Mines! I mutter, completely blown away. This was an incredible haul. I never imagined an epic drop would grant modern weaponry. Suddenly, Wolfhead Mountain and Tiger Plate. Mountains seemed like a joke. Now I could actually raid their strongholds. Then again, landmines are defensive traps, not assault gear. But hey, I still had an ace up my sleeve. As for the premium gift box, it can wait. There's no expiration date, So I shut down the system. I stepped outside, feeling completely confident. Husband, you're finally out. Chu Ching Ching set her bow aside and grabbed my arm. How did training go? Sister Z Jean says. We're quick learners and have already nailed the stance. I nudged her nose. I always knew my Ching Ching was the best. Blushing, she buried her face against my chest. Goozy Jean looked a little envious at the sight, while Joe Warner proudly looked the other way. I gently released Chu Ching Ching and cleared my throat. This bow is simple. Just line up your shot. Keep your cool when the fighting starts and make it count. One shot, one kill. The chief should have assembled the crowd by now. Let's head over to the eastern side of the village. Goozy Yoon's eyes brightened. Husband, does that mean you have a solid strategy? Absolutely. Even if an army of 20,000 bandits showed up, not a single soul would escape alive. Move out. Grab those weapons. I led the way as the three followed me, their gaze filled with pure admiration. Around 300 villagers had gathered together, leaving only the frail and elderly back in their homes. The village chief had briefed them on everything, yet years of suffering had utterly broken their spirits. Just hearing that troops were headed here, they got spooked like a flock of birds. They weren't trying to defy the chief. They were just scared out of their wits. Historically, nobody survives a fight with bandits. Chief, we really do trust you. But those thugs are ruthless killers. We're just starving peasants, so how can we fight? Exactly, Chief. 3 whole days to get ready? But if I miss even a single day of work, my wife and kids will starve. I'm a tight spot myself. If Sun Jian hadn't given some of us jobs this week, I'd be out on the streets begging by now. The chief sighed, realizing he'd been too optimistic. Rallying them was a nightmare. Maybe we should just run. Let the bandits burn the village to the ground. Whatever. Another villager slapped him across the face. Damn it, man. My old mother is 70 years old. My wife hasn't eaten in 4 days. And my baby is crying. How can we flee to the mountains? Why should I care? My family starved to death last year. I only have myself to worry about. Knock it off, Ergo Z. You're heartless. If our homes are reduced to ash, where are we supposed to return to? If Sun Jian hadn't hired you recently, you'd be a corpse by now. The crowd erupted into chaos. Fist fights broke out, and the chief couldn't hold them back. All of you cut out. I had finally arrived, and my shout pierced through the noise. Most of them stopped brawling and stared at me. Hell, I absolutely despise infighting. I booted Ergo Z, sending him flying several feet away. Then I grabbed the instigators and tossed them aside, one after another. Previously, the village had scoffed at me, but ever since the Lord showed me respect, no one dared to openly talk back to me anymore. Besides, plenty of tough guys have been eating my food this week, so they wouldn't say a single word. When starvation strikes, the provider becomes your god. It's just a few hundred bandits. So what? They haven't even shown up yet, and you guys are already tearing each other apart. I stepped up onto the stage alongside the chief. Just because some folks stayed silent didn't mean everyone would. A lanky, tall man stood up. Sun Jian, I'll grant that you're a changed man now. You forge iron, and you tend to the sick. You got connections with the magistrates. You even have extra grain and gear to go around. Even a guy like me, Old Chow, has to show you respect. Any other day, I wouldn't cross you. But this is different. I haven't taken your food, so I'll use zilch. I'll make it on my own. Hell, even begging beats going to war with thugs. Losing a house is way better than losing your life. Old Chow used to be a farmer with his own plot, but the fields yielded absolutely nothing lately. A couple of years back, the officials assigned him a refugee wife. She passed away from hunger within days. Now he just foraged in the mountains. Yes, Sun Jian. It's not that we're turning a deaf ear. We're just no match for a horde of bandits. Tons of us will die. The mob erupted again. Quiet. I raise my hand. Look, I get why you're terrified, but you don't even know what I intend to do yet. How can you be so sure we're doomed? Let me guess, just set traps and wait for the army, right? Those outlaws have actual swords, while we just have your iron tools. Worse yet, there's a whole swarm of them. It's going to be a bloodbath. I chuckled. I pulled out the landmine provided by the system. What on earth is that? The chief gaped at the iron chunk resting in my palm. The rest of the villagers looked completely baffled. This is the very weapon I designed to crush the bandits. What? This hunk of metal? Seriously? Are you pulling our leg? What do we do? Hurl at their skulls. Sun Jian, one of your iron shovel heads would work way better than that. I didn't bother trying to explain right away. Go ahead and laugh, because they won't be laughing for long. Hey, Sister Chu. What on earth is that? Gujin questioned. Beats me, but my hubby must have a good reason for it. Chu Ching Ching replied. Joanna rolled her eyes. Who knows what gimmicks he's pulling this time? Don't forget his hookless fishing rod. Yet the fish still reeled themselves in. If he claims it works, just maybe it does. Still, the villagers remained skeptical. A few pleaded with the chief to let them split, wanting to pack up and flee. The chief felt the heat. Listen, Sun Jian, if you're messing around now, I won't be able to stop them from packing out. Honestly, this played right into my hands. Hold on, I haven't even shown you how to operate this yet. How can you be so sure it's useless? The bandits won't hit us for 3 days. You've got time. Check out its firepower first. Old Chow, give me a hand. I stepped down and shoved the landmine right into his grip. Who's got a fire starter? Pass it over. Right here. Over here. Lao Zhong rushed forward and handed me one. Keep your eyes peeled. I modified the mine to function like a massive grenade. As I yanked the fuse, I called out, Old Chow, you got a lot of muscle. Once I ignite this, hurl it as far as humanly possible. I motioned toward an abandoned, dilapidated shack. Chuck it right over there. Wait, what? He had 0 time to respond before I already sparked the fuse. I specifically picked Old Chow, since he was shouting loudest about running away. Win him over, and the rest of the hesitant crowd would follow suit. Besides, his hunting background made him plenty strong. Get a tight grip, or we're all going down together. The fuse began spitting sparks, making Old Chow's hands tremble. Black powder wasn't a total novelty in this era. Traveling performers often used it for illusions, and festivals utilized it for small fire displays. Wealthy clans utilized it for prosperity tonics. Though it played no part in warfare, folks hadn't yet realized it could serve as an explosive weapon, as gunpowder. The few locals who recognized it gasped, and my wives caught on as well. Old Chow took a couple of quick strides and heaved it with all his might. Hit the deck. Cover your ears. I shielded my ears and ducked down, and the locals instantly followed suit. The clearing went dead silent as I braced for the blast. 1 second passed, then 2, 5, 6 seconds, still nothing. Damn, what's the holdup? The villagers stood back up, totally bewildered. Even the chief began to yell. Sun Jian, what on earth are? Boom! A massive explosion rattled the entire world. The night sky instantly lit up like daytime. The shockwave completely demolished nearly half a dozen vacant huts. Debris and stones came raining down everywhere. A miniature mushroom cloud spiraled upward. My ears were ringing, and my head was spinning. Several of those who had gotten up were knocked right over by the blast wind. Fortunately, it was just minor scratches. I brushed away the debris and spat out the grit. As the haze drifted off, every single villager stood frozen. They looked completely shell-shocked, paralyzed with fear. That thunderous roar had appeared out of nowhere, like a lightning strike out of a clear blue sky. Are you guys all right? I rushed over to my wives. We're fine, darling. Cough. Cough, honey, did you actually create this? What is it? Gu Zijing stared at me, as if she'd just discovered a whole new realm. Yeah, but the impact was way more intense than I bargained for. I inspected the smoldering wreckage. You're absolutely incredible, sweetheart. You're literally a god. The two of them showered me with praise. Zhuo Wan'er silently approached the wreckage. The rest of the villagers finally snapped out of it. They started heading toward the debris, too. That whole row of old houses was just gone. Scorched earth and smoldering fragments. A massive crater blasted into the dirt. Everyone just stared at me, totally terrified and amazed. Old Chow gasped loudly. The youngsters stood there completely stunned. I whipped this up using gunpowder and some other materials. Honestly, I figured it'd only wreck a couple of buildings. Even I'm shocked by this blast power. What's it called? The chief asked. It used to be a landmine, but I tweaked it. Now it's a hand grenade. I stepped back up onto the stage. Hey, don't sweat it. Handled properly. This thing won't backfire on us. Notice how it only went off after Old Chow threw it. Plus, I got other traps ready, like upgraded crossbows, deadfalls, and rolling logs. That hand grenade was merely a trial run. With defenses like these, even if hundreds of bandits raid us, we'll crush them. Heck, even if Dezhou sends a massive army of 10,000, not a single soul survives. Do you trust me? Right then, their panic shifted into hope. Yes, we believe you. We're finally safe. No more running away. The crowd erupted in cheers, looking at me with pure reverence. Chu Qingqing was absolutely thrilled. Both she and Gu Zijing gazed up at me, their eyes sparkling. Zhuo Wan'er was the only one looking miserable. Wiping out the Dezhou forces, she muttered, "How could you dare?" Then the system chimed in. Utsu Ovana es favorability minus science. Current, 31. Gu Zijing's favorability, +3. Current, 40. Chu Qingqing's favorability, +1. Current, 50. Maxed out. Glancing at those stats, I winced a bit. Well, makes sense. Zhuo Wan'er is the Dezhou princess, after all. My talk about slaughtering her country's troops clearly rattled her. I definitely need to keep that in mind. Ding. Chu Qingqing's favorability maxed out at 50. She's yours for good now. You score 1 legendary lottery ticket. Good for 30 days, plus 23 attribute points. Time to bind a new target soon. I shut down the system interface and got straight to mapping out the bandit ambush. After that blast, nobody dared second-guess me anymore. Folks even started whispering that I was the god of thunder in the flesh. True to my word, I divided my own grain stock into daily rations and parceled them out to the locals. Don't get twisted. It wasn't charity, I just needed them fit to work. From that point on, food anxiety was a thing of the past. Those super potatoes were due for harvest right around the corner. Once that hit, we'd never have to worry about running out. I sent Scar, the captured bandit, to the magistrate's office under heavy guard, then rallied the villagers to start rigging the traps. They busted their humps, practically fighting each other to help out. With old Chow running the show, it only took a single day for the entire village to undergo a complete makeover. Out of the 5 pathways leading inside, we barricaded 3, just one way in and one way out. The main entrance was left mostly clear of traps. We needed those bandits to march all the way into our territory. My instructions to the men stationed at the entrance were to let every last one of them pass. Don't spook them. Hold off until the inner snares go off, and when they turn tail to bolt, drop those massive iron logs to block the exit, like trapping a pack of stray dogs right inside the courtyard. We peppered the entire place with booby traps, inside every home, down every narrow alleyway, and at every single junction. Iron deadfalls, incendiary stones, every kind of hazard imaginable to cut off their retreat. Along the secondary route, we set up spiked barricades, pitfalls, and iron caltrops just past the breaches in the perimeter wall. Once the bulk of the bandits were wiped out and the survivors tried to flee, their only escape route would funnel them straight into the villagers' massive nets. Not a soul would break free. Each snare flowed into the next seamlessly. The folks in the village showered me with nonstop praise. First, they saw me as a deity of healing, then a lord of war, and finally the god of thunder. All I could do was smirk. Listen up, even with our preparations locked in, those raiders might pull off an early strike. Because of that, the crew holding the entry and exit points must hold their ground. Do not abandon your posts. The chief will be sending rations your way, and your households will be fully provided for. Nobody push back this time around, Sun Jin. I've got a question, the chief noted. Go ahead, shoot. If the raiders strike under the cover of night, why not move the elderly, the women, and the little ones down into the bunkers right away? There's no need for that. The bandits have only got a single entry point. We've posted a pair of sentries up on West Hill. The moment they spot them advancing, they'll strike the alarm. Since the bandits are still far off, they won't catch the sound. Got it, makes sense. I shifted my attention over to Old Chow and Laozhong. You two are handling the watch duty. Don't sweat it for a second, Sun Jin. We won't drop the ball. Perfect. As for the rest of you, head on home and get some shut-eye. I stepped down from the dais alongside the chief and a handful of village elders. I bid them a good evening and then escorted my wives back to our place. Once we got inside, the 3 of them pressed me once more on how I'd built that landmine by hand. I gave it my best shot to break it down, but as the industry jargon started piling up, they only grew more and more clueless. Husband, just level with us. Are you some kind of mortal who came down to Earth? A divine scholar? A champion of battle? A legendary warrior? Spot on. And seriously, those contraptions. I've never laid eyes on anything like them before. Automated crossbows, elaborate massive netting. You didn't construct any of this while we were around. They just materialized out of thin air, just like that bow and the potatoes. They just sort of popped up from out of nowhere. I massaged my temples because the more I clarified things, the more they grilled me. They were acting like nosy cats. Ultimately, I shut it all down with a single line. Heaven's mysteries are not to be revealed. Right when Joe Warner was fixing to press further, there was a rap at the entrance. Knock, knock, knock. Who's dropped by at this hour? I went over to answer it. Sun Jian, it's me. The chief stood outside, clutching a pair of dusty, aged wine jugs. He looked so thankful. You did a real fine job today. My old lady has been hoarding this liquor for 5 years. We almost bartered it away for some grain last year, but she wouldn't let me touch it. We never drank a drop. It's by far the priciest thing we own. First off, I'm bringing this straight to you. Secondly, you actually rescued our whole village. And as the chief, you kept plenty of us fed. I really appreciate it, he said, dead serious. But I wasn't the type to fish for compliments. Chief, you're too kind, but whatever I did was for my own sake too. Recruiting the locals to work and taking on the bandits was mostly to keep my own folk safe. I wasn't making it up either. Hiring the villagers just meant trading food for their labor. No actual salary, just a square deal. And fighting off marauders was purely because my family lived here. We had stockpiled grain and those super potatoes growing. I was basically utilizing the townsfolk, not playing savior. We both just got what we wanted. I can't take this alcohol. Please, take it back. His face fell. Sun Jian. Don't go scoffing at this stuff. Nowadays, it could easily be swapped for 100 pounds of grain. This cheap booze is worth 100 pounds? 100 pounds could practically buy you a few war wives. The old guy was totally bluffing, but I didn't call him out. He meant well, so I had to show him some respect. Wow, this really is a premium vintage. Easily the most precious item in our entire village. The folks from the village want you to have this. Please just take it. I insist. You're the absolute hope of this village. If you refuse it, I won't be able to look anyone in the eye. So I gave in and accepted the wine. All right then, head on home and get some rest. The chief grinned ear to ear and went on his way. I just shook my head, watching him walk off. I wondered what wine from this era actually tasted like. Maybe I'll try some tonight. Out of my 3 wives, only one has actually shared my bed so far. What a total waste. Maybe I should drink with all 3 of them, get them a little tipsy, and maybe sleep with all 3 at once tonight. I carried the wine back inside and grabbed a few packs of instant ramen from the kitchen to use as snacks. Come on. Tonight, all 3 of you are drinking with me. I poured the wine for them into bowls. The moment the seal popped open, the aroma filled the entire room. We're drinking tonight? Chu Chin Chung asked, completely surprised. They had just seen the chief deliver it. Yep, tonight. I had my own little agenda cooking up. There was no way I was letting this chance slip by. Okay. She sat down, completely obedient. Women of the old world always stood by their husbands. Without a single question. Wow, good wine. I haven't caught a whiff of wine like this in ages. Gu Zijing was a pretty bold woman. She immediately raised her bowl to take a sniff. It brought back memories of the last time she drank wine, back when her family was still a prominent noble house in Chien. But then her father backed the wrong side. Vicious people fabricated lies, branding them as rebels, and they lost everything. Making wine required grain, and during a famine, even the wealthiest families rationed their supplies. Just catching the scent of wine was an absolute luxury for the poor. This is truly exceptional wine. She took a small sip and praised it. Let me smell. Yo leaned in closer. Wow, yes. Pretty decent. The boss was totally right. We could easily score 100 pounds of grain for this. He was actually being dead serious. I just scoffed and rolled my eyes at them. Man, these 2 seriously need to get out more. One's royalty and the other's from high society. Yet they think this garbage is premium liquor. Joe Warner gave me a nudge. What's with that look? You guys honestly haven't seen anything. Chomping down on some instant ramen, I added Back in the day, Joe Warner nearly tripped, but quickly recovered. You're the clueless one here, buddy. This stuff is top tier. Gu Zijing nodded along. Yep, hubby, finding a brew like this is super rare. Chu Ching Chong added in a soft voice. I'm no connoisseur, but the aroma is lovely. Just ignore him. Let's keep drinking. He clearly knows zero about alcohol. Joe Warner chimed in while I kept chewing. This alcohol is basic, barely fermented and strained. It's maybe 10% ABV max pure trash. Even I could whip up something 100 times better without needing to age it for decades. No way. Chu Ching Ching's eyes immediately perked up. For real? Is that true, hubby? Gu Zijing grabbed my arm. Duh. When have I ever played you like that? My technique is completely unmatched. Once we take care of these outlaws, I'll brew a batch and blow your minds. I was positive I wouldn't even need the system's help. In this era, booze was just basic fermented crops or fruit. Even a master brewers hit a wall at around 20%. Proper spirit requires high-temperature distillation, cooling, filtering, and then double distilling it. Oh, so you're a master distiller now, too? Warner stared at me, looking pretty impressed. Honestly, was there anything I couldn't pull off? Von na bet. If I deliver, will you call me hubby? Just like the others. I teased, shooting my shot. She blushed. I won't. You're my wife, so calling me husband is only right. She was totally speechless. And I said this. If I brew a wine 100 times better than this, you owe me a kiss. Deal. Her face flushed deeper as she tilted her chin up. Fine. If you actually pull it off, I'll consider it. Deal. The vibe was great, so I shifted the topic. Let's have a drink. Cheers. We laughed, and I threw in some dirty jokes too. After 3 rounds, they were totally blushing. I suggested, hey, let's play truth or dare. We didn't have any dice. Otherwise, I would have taught them dice games too. Look, it's rock. Paper, scissors. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper. And paper beats rock. Got it? The winner asks a question, and the loser can't back out of dare. Even an idiot could see the pure greed in my eyes. Zhu Jing and Gu Zijing imagined certain scenarios and turned bright red. They looked down, bracing themselves for what was coming. Zhuaner, however, was different. What's there to be afraid of? It's 3 of us against you. If any of us wins, we get to boss you around. Fine by me, then. No backing out. Ching ching. You're up first. Rock, paper, scissors. Luck was totally on my side for all 3 rounds. I won. Every single one of you lost. Time for my demand. No way. That doesn't count. Let's redo it. Shwa. Wanner sensed the danger. You are totally cheating. Either we play again, or I'm not doing what you ask. Whatever you request. I'm just not ready for it. She looked away, blushing hard. I almost pushed the issue, but maybe the timing just wasn't right. If I pushed it, she'd probably give in, but I wanted her to actually want it. We had time, so let her have this one. Fine. This is the absolute last time. No more pulling fast ones, and you two better not cheat either. The other 2 flushed red and went quiet. With my heart pounding, I quickly laid out my terms. My terms? Tonight's losers are sleeping in my bed. No backing out, and no fighting it. I blew out the candles. Grabbing Chu Ching with my left hand, and Gu Zijin with my right, we all sat on the mattress. Hey Joe, when I bolted upright like a startled rabbit. Chu King King. And Gu Zijin gasped, trying to pull away from my grip. But I held on tight. Hey, we had a deal. Win or lose, no running away. But hubby, promises were just sleeping. Nothing else. Chu Ching didn't really mind. She'd already been with me before. But Gu Zijin was acting all awkward about it. Hubby, She was acting shy, but with some sweet talk and smooth moves. She finally relented. Joe Warner stamped her foot in frustration, muttered shameless, and stormed off to the side room. Hey, my trick worked. So what if I was being shameless? I had to play dirty. Otherwise, no woman would ever willingly come to me. They're my wives anyway. Even the gods couldn't stop me from sharing a bed with my very own women. Using a little scheme to get what I wanted was totally fine. Once under the covers, I stripped completely naked. The 2 of them looked utterly mortified. Hubby, you swore we were only going to sleep. Yeah, and I'm just sleeping. I just happen to prefer sleeping in the nude. I sweet-talked them right out of their outer layers, too. Lying right between them, my hands began to drift over their bodies. Both were flawless, soft as software, yet firm as firmware in the moonlight. Chu Ching Chong looked creamy white, while Gu Zijin was tanner, sleek and robust. Soft murmurs escaped from them both. Rolling over, I pinned Gu Zijin beneath me. Just as I was about to dive in, a sound echoed from the village. Clang, clang. A gong was ringing in the distance, yet it was distinct. Hubby, Gu Zijin was completely swept up in the moment. She didn't care at all, but I had to pull back. Hold on, listen. Clang, clang. The ringing was drawing nearer. I recognized that noise. Old Chow and Lao Zhuang were raising the alarm about bandits. Damn it, raiders. They hit early. I scrambled out of bed. I threw my clothes on and struck a candle. The 2 women snapped out of it and got dressed too. Johanna hadn't been asleep. She'd been in the next room, keeping an ear out. She stepped inside, awaiting instructions. Bloody bandits, showing up right at this exact moment. Zijian, get everyone down to the basement. Keep them safe. I'm heading out. Throwing on my robe, I bolted outside. Those thugs were quick. I expected 3 days, but it's only been a day and a half. Thank goodness I already set up the traps. Good thing I posted guards out there, too. Most of the able-bodied men had gathered at my gate, awaiting orders. The chief and elders arrived as well, assisted by the younger guys. Old Chow and Lao Zhang finally quit banging the gong, panting heavily. Bandits. The bandits are coming. Looks like a few hundred on horseback, carrying torches. Sun Jian, stick to the plan. Understood. I glanced up at the moon. We got about half a stick of incense before they arrive. Old Chow, head over to the entrance. Tell our boys to hold their nerve. Let every last one in, then cut off the route. Lao Zhang, get over to the exit. Give them the signal to drop the massive net. If anyone tries to break out, gun them down. Not a soul gets away, Chief. Take some guys and start beating the gong. Warn every household to take cover in the cellars. Don't end up tripping over our own snares. They moved out swiftly. The hunt was officially on. The outlaws charged in, but didn't spot a soul. They were thrilled. Listen up, boys. Plunder the grain and seize the women. Butcher anyone who resists. Hooves thundered amidst blazing torches and curved blades. They smashed through every single door. Yet, not a single house was occupied. They'd even cleared out the chickens. Boss, something feels totally off here. This place is downright creepy. A low-ranking thug was reporting when an arrow struck. It ripped right through his chest. Blood splattered everywhere as he dropped dead. Damn locals, they've rigged this place. Track him down and take their heads. The head honcho bellowed. The thugs stormed the courtyards, hunting for anyone hiding. But no one was there. The bolts were firing from infrared trigger crossbows. Searching vacant rooms only cost more lives. Whoosh, whoosh. Arrows rained down from all directions. As the bandits fell, one cried, "Boss, this village is freaking haunted." Shut the hell up. We're bandits. We don't fear ghosts, boys. Dismount and smoke those villagers out. Off your horses. They were sitting ducks as a fresh volley struck. Massive boulders and timber rained down from above. Casualties were heavy as the folks worked completely in sync. Every single move hit the mark, throwing the bandits into a total panic. They scrambled to flee, but the entrance route was already sealed off. The boss and a few close henchmen managed to make it to the exit, only to find barricades and spikes. Caltrops everywhere, no way out. Locked from the heavens, cornered on earth. Totally trapped. 500 bandits wiped out in under 2 hours. Barely a few dozen of them survived. Lao Zhuang dropped a massive net right over the remaining crew. Less than 2 hours for a complete and utter victory. Not a single villager was injured, and 46 bandits were captured. The rest were dead, sending the villagers into wild cheers. Elderly women and kids finally emerged from the cellars. Everyone crowded around just to catch a glimpse of me. To them, I was practically a deity. But when I showed up alongside my 3 wives, they all swarmed right around Sun Jian instead. You're our savior. All 500 bandits are either dead or caught. None of our people got hurt. This is honestly superhuman. He's got miraculous medicine and mystical explosives. Just like the gods of thunder, and now this master strategy. A man of his caliber comes along only once in a millennium. I was feeling pretty good. Even the village widows were giving me looks. Then Sun Jian stepped up. Look, I'm a blunt guy, and I've crossed lines with you before. But today, it's clear as day that you're no ordinary person. You're destined to rise like a dragon. It is an absolute honor to stand by your side. My life belongs to you, no matter where you lead me. I'm with you all the way. I gave old Chow a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Sun Jian, what's the plan for these capture bandits? The chief bowed deeply. These thugs had murdered and pillaged, and every single one of them had blood on his hands. I wasn't about to waste my breath on them. Get the bodies cleared out, Lao Zhuang. Take the survivors straight to the magistrate's office. Do we need to take cover in the cellars again tonight? Judging by the head count, pretty much all of Wolf Head Mountain showed up. We're out of the woods for now. Tiger Plate Mountain is a ways off. Just deploy a handful of guys to keep an eye on the hill each day. Once word gets out to them about Wolf Head, they're bound to watch their step too. Just to play it safe, Chief, have old Chow take a crew to clear out any active traps, and then set up fresh ones outside the village lines. As long as they're kept clear of the main pathways, our village will be locked down for good. The villagers cheered and immediately got to work. The night was drawing to a close, and the sky was already beginning to brighten. All I wanted was to take my wives back inside and finish what we had started in bed. But the second I lay down, someone started pounding on the door again. Bang, bang, bang. Who the hell is it? Damn it. Can a guy get some peace and quiet with his wives? I swear, I nearly cursed out loud a dozen times. Hey, Sun Jian. It's me, Lao Zhang. Look, I know you haven't slept yet, but the magistrate is here. The magistrate. My anger instantly vanished, and I leaped up to throw the door open. The magistrate here this early? We only handed over that bandit scar to the authorities late last night. He must have caught wind of the raid and ridden hard through the night to get here. Typically, a county magistrate wouldn't handle bandits directly. The deputy usually took care of that. Yet this old man was over 50, and he'd traveled all night just to offer his support. I was genuinely moved. Sir, please come on in. Yes, right inside. I welcomed him indoors and asked Shu Chin Sheng to brew some tea. The magistrate stared at me with wide, gleaming eyes, utterly thrilled, proud, and radiating pure joy. Excellent, truly excellent. He repeated it 3 times. My old eyes certainly didn't deceive me. A brilliant young hero. Our humble county boasts such a marvel. Chuckles, I rubbed my nose, feeling pretty sheepish. Purelak, honestly. Man, when word reached me that raiders were hitting your village, I was worried sick. I rounded up the guards and rode hard all through the night. Without a single break, we finally made it to the village gate, only to bump right into your people. They were hauling the captured bandits straight to my headquarters, and they told me, you completely outsmarted those thugs and trapped them. Took down over 400 and bagged the boss. Not a single villager scratched. He beamed with pride, looking like he'd pulled it off himself. Sir, you're giving me way too much credit. I just had enough time to get ready. Quit being so modest. I'm neither deaf nor blind. A man who's a master of miraculous medicine. Concocts thunder bombs, crafts mystical bows, sets flawless ambushes, and schemes like a mastermind. There's no way that's just luck. His expression turned grave. You're harboring serious talent, and I know it. Right then, it started to dawn on me that this wasn't a simple thank you note. The Lord raised his hands toward the heavens. Years ago, Emperor Arkianwu was just a minor king under the corrupt Sui dynasty. Yet he fought to forge this great Dutchan empire. Our nation is young, and with your brilliance, there's so much to achieve. Why not, Sir Dutchan? Why not pledge yourself to our emperor? And there it was. The guy was trying to recruit me into the imperial court. I had cured his lady, and he had ridden through the night on my account. To most folks, this was a massive favor. A golden ticket to high office, a ticket out of poverty. But not for me. I refused to wear chains. I had zero desire to live as the emperor's lackey, just for some fancy clothes. I had the system on my side. What could I possibly lack? Emperors? One day, I'd be looking down on all of them. Besides, palace life was flat-out lethal. Serving royalty is like messing with a wild tiger. One wrong slip of the tongue, and you're dead. I wasn't about to look for trouble. So I pivoted and changed the subject fast. My lord, please let's not dwell on that. You traveled so far, so let me get you some food. Something your taste buds have never experienced. Wait, what? He blinked. I quickly called for Chu Chin Sheng to whip up some instant noodles for his lordship. He still tried to speak, but I just clapped my hands. Have a seat, sir. I'm going to dig up a real treat for you to try. As I stepped out, my wife called, Husband, where are you going? Just to harvest a few potatoes. Gu Ziyun and Zhou Wan'er clearly didn't want to be left alone with the Lord. They hurried right after me. Husband, hold on, wait up for us. Gu Ziyun turned to Zhou Wan'er and said proudly, Hey, sister. It really sounds like the Lord wants him to join the court. With his talents, he'd become a top minister within years. Maybe even a duke. Easy peasy. A court official? Big deal, Zhou Wan'er sneered. She wasn't necessarily against him entering politics. She just hated the idea of him serving to Qian. Sister, what is wrong with you? Our husband is an intellectual. Every scholar dreams of a high position with the Lord's personal backing. He wouldn't even have to sit for the exams. Well, it doesn't have to be to Qian, does it? He could head over to the Zhou instead. Over there, he could practically be king. A what? She realized she had nearly let too much slip. But literally anything is better than serving the Deqian court. Sister, aren't you originally from Deqian yourself? Gu Ziyun shot her a sharp, piercing look. She had long suspected that something about Zhou Wan'er was off. Her own father, after all, was a general. Zhou Wan'er could practically pass as royalty from Great Zhou. Well, of course I am. I just feel like Zhou is far more grounded. Zhou Wan'er countered quickly. The Qian is barely a decade old. Meanwhile, Zhou has seen 5 emperors. Despite the wars and famines, Zhou remains advanced. But my husband belongs to the Qian. Gu Ziyun wasn't buying any of it. The current Zhou ruler snatched the crown by force, too. Zhou has plenty of its own baggage. A tally of former kings doesn't indicate how well a nation treats its ministers. The fallen Sui dynasty had multiple rulers before the Chun. Countless good men perished there. A fresh empire built from scratch is a better bet. Besides, as a Chun local, I won't face constant distrust. Does allegiance even matter? The prime minister of Great Qian originates from Great Zhou. You belong to Great Qian, don't you? What are you two gossiping about back there? Pick up the pace. I shouted from the front. Gu Ziyun wanted to press the issue further, but she dropped it. Zhou Wan'er sighed inwardly. A guy like me, if I serve the Qian, it means Zhou Song in Western Xia will never know peace with me aiding their enemy. The Qian could totally wipe them out. If she ever reclaims her princess status, she'll likely bind me up and drag me off to Zhou. She'd spare no expense to pull me to her side. The nearest hillside, where I put down my potato crops, was close by. Yet upon arriving, I stood frozen in shock. Withered vines littered the ground. Sprouting potato shoots were scattered everywhere. 2 acres of fresh cultivation totally trashed, like stray dogs ran amok. My heart sank completely. What went wrong? Was the soil just bad? Zhou Wan'er and Gu Ziyun ran up, totally blindsided too. This doesn't look like an issue with the soil. It seems like something chewed through them, right? Humans did this, not the dirt. I let out a sigh. These were miracle potatoes. They could literally grow in plain water. The soil wasn't the problem, guys. Did someone from around here deliberately sabotage hubby? Gu Ziyun knit her brows. Who in this village would dare? It had to be stray dogs or some wild beasts. I inspected the vines, snapped apart by teeth. It was definitely people. They only ate the tender leaves and tips, leaving the bitter vines behind. The pair crouched down to examine the foliage. Whoa, you can actually see the bite marks. Good grief, who would even eat raw greens? Yeah, is this stuff even edible for humans? I gave them a deadpan stare. One was a rebel general's daughter, the other a princess. Neither had ever known starvation. Ever since they married me, I kept them well fed. They had never witnessed truly famished people. When folks get desperate enough for food, they'll devour anything, tree bark, wild leaves, even mud. If the famine is severe enough, the desperate will resort to cannibalism. This tragedy was unfolding in countless regions. Right now, Sun Family Village was incredibly lucky. I sighed quietly, keeping these dark thoughts to myself. Has anyone spotted any drifters passing through? Not that I'm aware of, Gu Zijing replied. Don't look at me. Those two are the ones handling the locals. Not me, Joe Warner chimed in. Whatever. It's a blessing we cultivated potatoes. Had it been wheat or standard garden crops, they'd be completely wiped out. Hubby, are we heading home? Not just yet. Give me a hand unearthing some spuds. I began digging into the dirt with my bare hands. The two of them had eaten potatoes before, but had no clue how they grew. They figured potatoes grew on vines like melons. When I dug one up, their jaws literally dropped. Potatoes grow under the dirt. I shrugged. Did I ever say they grew on top? I grabbed a potato as big as my entire palm. Super potatoes really are built different. Not even fully grown and already this massive. Those folks who were eating the leaves didn't realize the real food was right beneath their feet. If they just dug, they would have eaten an actual meal instead of bitter leaves. Lucky for us, though. Stop standing around and help me out. The three of us unburied a few dozen potatoes. We had nothing else to carry them in, so I covered up the remaining holes. We headed back home, arms loaded with potatoes. Once home, another crowd had gathered at my door. The chief and elders heard the Lord was in town and came to pay their respects, spotting Lao Zhang and Old Chow in the mass of people. I told them to dispatch some farmhands to guard the rest of the potato patches. No more scavengers eating my harvest. I worked way too hard for that food. Since those two work for me now, they want to round up workers immediately. Zijian, steam these potatoes, then serve them to the Lord. Yes, husband. I stepped inside the room. The chief and elders stood up to greet me. Sir, you went out to the fields? The Lord noticed the mud all over me. Yep, promised I'd get you something good. Give it half an hour and you can eat. It's a famine year, what could it be? The Lord wondered. As the county lord, he'd seen pretty much every type of grain, even if he hadn't personally tasted them. Just wait and see, I kept this under wraps on purpose. Even the village elders hadn't ever seen a potato. They'd only heard rumors. But today, they finally got to look at and dig into them. Sharing wasn't a bad call. They'd help me grow a bigger batch later. Afterward, the Lord shifted the conversation. I sent off a letter to my mentor, Governor Yao, to put in a good word for you. A recommendation from Governor Yao? I had a bad feeling about this. Who exactly was Governor Yao? It definitely sounded like some high and mighty position. Was the Lord seriously still trying to force me into public office? Man, this old guy just wouldn't let it drop. One of the village elders gasped. Governor Yao of Yangzhou? Yao Tianzhou. Oh, good heavens. He's the most powerful official in all of Yangzhou. He controls the entire military and civil administration. And he's actually the Lord's mentor. Well, a legendary teacher breeds legendary students. I totally roll my eyes at that. Talk about a bunch of small-town folks. Sure, a governor acts as both a civil governor and military commander, wrapped into one, but Yangzhou is just a mid-sized province at best. It basically spans middle Shaanxi and bits of Gansu on old maps. Why the massive hype? The leader then chimed in. Governor Yao is one of the founding fathers of the Great Qi, the emperor's right-hand man, and the finest medical authority in our land. Just meeting him is a once-in-a-lifetime dream. The Lord gave a bittersweet smile. I was the only one he took on as his final disciple. He always claimed I'd carry on his legacy. Yet, I nearly lost my own wife to a severe illness. If Mr. Sun hadn't stepped in, she'd be gone by now. Everything clicked then. The Lord practiced medicine as well. No wonder he had bowed down to me. The moment he finished examining his wife, he recognized that I had genuinely cured her, rather than pulling some cheap soul retrieval needle stunt. In my letter, I highly commended your medical skills and heroic deeds. The governor replied with high praise for you as well. He mentioned that on the 15th of the 8th lunar month, he'll travel to Hongnon County just to meet you. Oh, thank goodness, it's not about a government post. That's a relief. I can breathe easy now, sir. Do you truly despise the idea of public office that much? Absolutely. What's the point of being a bureaucrat? I refuse to be tied down, and I won't deal with political infighting. Scheming with court officials sounds like a total nightmare, right? Accepting a post might not actually be up to you, though. He offered a smirk while stroking his goatee. What are you getting at? Is it just because of my treatments and the clash with the bandits? It goes way beyond that. You are young and exceptionally talented. Your medicine, your specialized equipment, your explosives, your weaponry, and your strategies. The decision is out of my hands. I cut him off, sir. Allow me to reiterate. I have zero interest in politics. Surely nobody can force me into it, right? I nearly blurted out what I was honestly thinking. With my unique system, I'd only ever settle for being the supreme ruler of everything. Why on earth should I be some low-ranking official? You hold the authority here. If you keep this quiet, who else is going to drag me into service? You're mistaken, young man. Even if I remain completely silent, word of a flawless victory against 500 bandits, and your advanced arsenal is bound to leak out. Besides, gene operatives are everywhere. My heart sank as I realized how fast gossip travels. One person passes it to 10, and 10 pass it to 100. Before long, it would reach the monarch's ears. He wasn't some weak, pampered prince. He was a dynasty founder. He possessed resources and methods I simply couldn't evade. I needed to mass power before that fateful day arrived. Hold on, the 15th of the 8th month? That's literally tomorrow. Indeed, the governor will arrive tomorrow morning. I've checked the calendar, and tomorrow won't work. I promised my wives we'd moon-gaze together. The Lord was completely at a loss for words. I held a scholar's title, but I was still just a peasant. The top military and political leader of all Yangzhou was traveling to a tiny town just to see me, and I turned him down. People would think it's a joke. The village chief was practically in tears. Sun Jian, the moon is full on the 15th, and folks go out to admire it on the 16th night. What kind of moon are you watching in the morning? Who even cares about moon-gazing in a year like this? Just keeping from starving was a celebration. An audience with the governor was a massive opportunity. The Sun family. Village hadn't seen a break like this in decades. Maybe the imperial court would finally notice them. Yet, I had shot it down without a second thought. The elders pleaded with me. Sun Jian. See him in the morning, watch the moon at night. They don't conflict. I just glared at them. Why don't you guys just go instead? But I kept it to myself. Sensing the tension, the Lord spoke up. How about this? I know you possess incredible talents and have no desire to enter public life. But Governor Yao is a high-ranking official, not to mention my mentor. He's journeyed a long way. Could you grant him just one meeting? I'll ensure you're back in the village by nightfall, right in time to watch the moon with your wives. The Lord had put it so graciously. If I said no now, I just looked completely heartless. He had ridden through the night to bail me out. The least I could do was show some mutual respect. All right, Fina. I'll meet with him. The Lord smiled and gave the order. Get the horses ready tonight. Understood. He lands first thing in the morning, so we can't keep him waiting. Got it. Guess hitting the sheets with Gu Zijing. We'll have to hold off until the night of the 15th. Hubby, the noodles are all set. The potatoes are done too. Chu Chin Chung and Gu Zijing walked right in. One carrying a piping hot bowl of noodles, the other holding some freshly steamed potatoes. The aroma completely took over the room. Man, it smelled good. The chief and elders had never had anything like this. They were practically drooling. What on earth is this? It smells incredible. The Lord was totally blown away. Gulping hard, he asked, "Are these instant noodles? And this is potato? Is this the treat you were talking about?" You bet. I passed around a warm potato to each guy, even shoving one straight into the Lord's hand. Dig in. They couldn't help themselves. Though burning their mouths, they just kept scarfing it down. Within seconds, their potatoes totally vanished. Then they just stared at the bowl, looking starved. I nearly burst out laughing. Were they seriously trying to clean out my pantry on a single visit? No way. A little sample is plenty. I've been polite enough. The leftovers are meant for Old Chow, Lao Zhang, and Ergo. They forced themselves to look away. I turned around to check on the Lord. He'd already polished off a whole bowl of noodles and potatoes, beating the elders to the punch. Delish. These are absolutely fantastic. I was left speechless. Even the chief felt a bit sheepish. My bad. I'm not even that hungry. It's just so damn tasty. Sweet, velvety, and packed with flavor. I grinned. You got away with words, sir. The potato is actually a brand new staple crop. I cultivate it. It's just as good as wheat or rice. Plus, it really fills you up. Wait, what? You bred a whole new food source. The Lord bolted upright. He was practically stammering. This was massive news. For literally thousands of years, mankind had relied strictly on wheat and rice, along with some tiny seeds. Throughout history, nobody had ever created a brand new crop. The brilliant minds back then just brought them in from distant lands. If I really did engineer a novel food source, this feat by itself put me way ahead of anyone else in the past. He took another gulp, but not because he was hungry. He was just utterly shocked. Look, you don't buy it, do you? No, it's not that. It's just, this news is way too massive. If I didn't make it, have you ever run across anything like this? I just shrugged with my cheat system. What couldn't I pull off? I'd cashed in a rare lottery win for 100 bags of premium seeds. Pretty much every staple crop available in my previous world. If potatoes blow their minds this much, what happens when they see corn? Maize didn't actually reach ancient China until the Ming Dynasty. Around 1531, so this era hadn't caught a glimpse of it yet. They might literally pass out. How could I not believe you? What's the harvest yield on these potatoes? What kind of ground do they need to grow? As a county magistrate, his questions cut straight to the core details. The standard potato yield about 3,000 to 5,000 pounds per acre, but mine are modified super potatoes. We're talking 8,000 to 10,000 pounds an acre. Say what? 10,000 pounds an acre. Good heavens. His hands began to tremble. In the soil, they mature underground, kind of like groundnuts. Basic dirt is fine, whether it's chilly or hot. No need for heavy fertilizer or constant watering. It still thrives. My goodness. What an absolute miracle. Wait, what on earth is a groundnut? I pinched the bridge of my nose. How do I explain this? Peanuts were another new plant I introduced, but they aren't cultivated yet. It hit me. Peanuts also popped up during the Ming Dynasty, meaning this world's history books probably had no record of them. The current Qin state mirrored the late Tang Dynasty of ancient China. Yet things here were occasionally weird. Certain things absent in the Tang Dynasty actually existed right here. The Lord didn't give a damn about peanuts. What's the growth cycle for this plant? I expected a month, but after just 10 days, they were good to go. A mere 20 days tops. Grow them whenever, freezing cold or blistering hot. No problem at all. Good heavens. He blurted it out for the third time, making the village elders leap up as well. By the heavens, this thing is sacred. I rub my temples. Look, it's just a crop. I can whip up all kinds. It's no big deal. So quit making such a massive fuss. Yet my calm words did nothing to ease their shock. My 3 wives giggled quietly. Their husband possessed far weirder talents than this. Honestly, they figured I could do anything now. Why? Because they saw me as a god descended to earth. The Lord's breathing grew heavy, but he checked himself. Sir, may I take another look at that potato? Sure thing. I handed him one. Cradling it like an infant, he began to tremble. He stumbled out to the courtyard and dropped to his knees, lifting the potato high toward the sky. Heaven has shown us mercy. Mr. Sun, you're truly a man sent from above. With sustenance like this, our people won't starve, and our Diqian will rise. I leaned against the doorway, completely jaw-dropped. He really is a decent lord. Then the village elders rushed out and knelt beside him. Heaven smiles upon us. A miracle man in our midst. No more famine. I felt my head spin. I'm the one who created the potato. I'm standing right here. Why on earth are you all bowing to the sky? When the Lord finally stood up, he approached me with gleaming eyes. Sir, since the dawn of time, food is the ultimate heaven for the people. With 4 kingdoms locked in war and constant disasters, our folk are starving. Heaven simply could not bear it anymore. So heaven sent you in this miracle. This must be destiny, sir. Oh, please stop. My head's gonna burst from all this praise. He grinned and shifted gears. Sir, once I get back, I'll deploy troops to protect your village. That way, you can grow your first massive batch of potatoes. Please accept. I wavered. Soldiers? That felt a lot like being watched. The Lord probably didn't mean it like that, but more eyes on this just meant more trouble. Lacking funds and an army, I couldn't show my hand just yet. Still, the potatoes were already planted. Even without the Lord's visit today, grain day was coming, so the secret would have leaked. Anyway, I'd already thought this through. Without me, they couldn't cultivate this crop. As long as I kept the seedling technique to myself, nobody could touch me. Fine then, but please bear in mind, we're practically on the Dezhou border. Don't let this news travel any further, sir. I realize what's at stake. Count on me. Great. I stepped outside and called for Old Chow and Lao Zhang, since I might be leaving with the Lord shortly, and wouldn't be back until tomorrow night. I laid out my instructions. Grain day was approaching, so Old Chow needed to harvest the initial batch of potatoes. Keep some aside for my wives to prep as seedlings. Tell Joe Weiner, Chu Ching Chong, and Guizi Jean to handle the seedling preparation in the cellar. The seedling process has to remain strictly classified. The fresh shoots should go into all existing fields first, and only then onto the newly cleared wildland. Let's maximize the yield. The remainder will go to the laborers as they're cut, along with some stored grain and goose eggs. The rest of the strategy remained unchanged. Take the villagers with sharp aim up into the mountains to hunt and fish. Better rations for the laborers. Troops would start patrolling now, too. Beggars won't be ruining the crops anymore, sir. Leave the farm work to Lao Zhang. Let me tag along with you to town. Old Chow initially addressed me as son, but since the master called me sir, he switched to sir as well. What for? I'm just visiting the bureau, not some outlaw camp, I said, patting his shoulder. Soldiers, guard the roads, secure my estate, and protect my wives. That's far more vital. He was fiercely loyal and wanted to protect me, but a simple peasant. Parading around with bodyguards would just look ridiculous. I headed to the city alongside the master. By nightfall, we arrived at his estate, running on barely any sleep for days. The exhausting journey sent me straight to bed. I couldn't even touch the feast his wife specially prepared. The master and his lady stood beside my bed, as she gently pulled the quilt back over me. My dear, the maid can take care of this. It's quite all right. If not for him, I'd be in a grave right now. True, Mr. Sun is a miracle worker. All the world's medicine pales in comparison to his skill. With just a single novel technique, he made me feel like an absolute novice, as he marveled at how I had merely deployed a few specialized needles, allowing his wife to heal without any additional herbs. He felt humbled. I prepared that entire meal, yet he didn't get to taste a bite. I haven't even properly thanked him face to face. There's plenty of time. Let him sleep. I have reports to draft. They quietly shut the door. Darling, is he truly that remarkable? Yes, far beyond remarkable. He is no ordinary man. The entire world might transform because of him. What's your plan? Hong Nong is way too close to the Zhou. It's barely 300 kilometers, and we're actively at war with them. Trouble could strike at any moment. This news won't stay under wraps for long. I've got to gear up. Mr. Sun's protection is our top priority. Every single day he spends in Hong Nong keeps me on edge. Waiting until tomorrow is a no-go, so I've already drafted my report. I'm sending it over to Governor Yao tonight. He'll get it rushed straight to the Emperor. The Emperor will take action. Will Mr. Sun hold this against us? You mentioned yourself that he wants no part in public office. We have to do this. If the Zhou or the Xia catch wind of it first, his life is on the line. The following morning, I slept in until I finally woke up naturally. I got cleaned up. Sitting on the table was a fresh robe and a box of mooncakes. The fabric felt incredible, a massive step up from my usual coarse gear. I got changed. Hey, why turn down free stuff? A maidservant was waiting right outside my door. Good day, sir. You're up. The master requests your presence in the study. Our guest has arrived. Oh, he's here already? I'm not quite sure when he got in, sir. By then, it was already midday. The governor must have shown up at the break of dawn. Apparently, he heard I was still asleep, and chose to wait until I woke up on my own. For hours? That's bizarre. The master's estate was rather modest. The study doors were shut. Inside, I found Governor Yao playing a game of chess with the master. They both stood up and offered a bow. I returned the gesture. Governor, please accept my apologies. I hadn't slept a wink in days, so I crashed hard and kept you waiting. Don't worry about it. I explicitly told the master and the staff not to disturb you. Besides, I'm not here on official state business today, so hanging out for a few extra hours is no big deal. Please have a seat, Governor. After you. Check out Governor Yao. I could tell right off he wasn't some ordinary guy like the Lord. He had this square jaw and intense eyes, but he was getting up there, maybe close to 60. Silvery hair, a matching beard, yet still standing tall and straight with glowing, razor-sharp eyes. Honestly, he looked like a classic movie star from my past life. The three of us just shot the breeze like old buddies, chatting about everything from local lore to poetry. Governor Yao kept hyping me up, but he didn't bring up the potatoes once. Not a word on the weaponry, explosives, or medicine. He didn't even push me to take a government post. This felt a bit fishy to me, but since he wasn't pressing, I wasn't about to rock the boat. The weirdest part was how incredibly humble he was acting. He kept calling himself this humble servant and addressing me as sir. The guy held a second-class rank, a high-ranking minister to the emperor, the governor of Yangzhou, and mentor to the crown prince. Meanwhile, I was just a peasant with an empty shack, zero land, and basically starving 3 days out of every 4. In a society obsessed with status, the divide between us was a massive canyon. The Lord being nice to me made sense. But the governor too? What was the catch? After 2 hours, the Lord suggested, let's grab some food. He had reserved a spot over at the Gathered Worthies Tower. We headed over together, and by then it was already past noon. I hadn't eaten a thing all day, so I dug in fast. Then the drinks started flowing, and after a few rounds, night began to fall. The governor gazed up at the full moon and got hit by inspiration. Moonlight floods the sea of stars, while willow silhouettes dissolve. A soft breeze brushes the face. As winter stealthily arrives, the solitary lantern needs no jade to beam so bright. It must be the moon goddess gazing into her mirror. The Lord downed his cup in one go. What a stunning piece. He totally flattered the governor with genuine praise. Secretly, I rolled my eyes, if you could even call that a poem. It was pretty mediocre at best. Did these people not recognize actual poetry? Then again, the governor was primarily a military man. This wasn't half bad for him. But the Lord was sucking up like a bunch of local village elders. Just hollow compliments. Sir? Sir? The Lord nudged me. Huh? What? Yes, right here. What's on your mind? Oh, just thinking about the governor's verses. Any thoughts on it? I flashed a fake smile. It's good, very good. It was such obvious, empty flattery. Anyone could tell. The mood in the room got pretty tense. My verses could certainly use some work. Would Mr. Sun care to offer some feedback? The governor wasn't even offended. He actually wanted my input. I glanced over at the Lord. Governor, your poem was decent, but since you're asking... The Lord cut me off, assuming I was just being modest. Teacher, Mr. Sun has quite the reputation as a scholar. He surely has profound insights into literature. Why not have him share a poem of his own? After all, today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. I glared at him. You tricky old fox. Why are you twisting my words like that? Indeed, Mr. Sun, if you please. A verse to commemorate our gathering. The governor agreed before I could even pass on it. Great, now I was cornered. I was completely stumped. I could recall famous poems, but composing them was a different story. Wait a sec. Recalling poems? Heck yes. I could just rip off the masters from my old world. Nobody in this realm has ever heard of Li Bai, Du Fu, or Su Shi. I'll just plagiarize. The Qin state excelled in warfare, but lacking in verse, with barely any renowned bards. Folks from the Zhao and Xia dynasties labeled us as northern barbarians. The emperor took this grievance to heart. All right, I'll give it a shot. Holding a wine goblet, I stood by the casement. I gazed at the full moon to channel the right vibe. Plagiarizing verse requires some theatrics. Just spitting them out would seem totally staged. Once half an incense stick burned down, I shut my eyes and drained my goblet, swaying my head and shoulders. I was locked and loaded. I'd rip off Su Shi's water tune prelude featuring the verse. When did a luminous moon first appear? Raising my goblet toward the moon, I declaimed. When did a luminous moon first appear? I toast the heavens to find out.